And I just want to thank you for bringing those. For those that didn't know, on yesterday, and Clint, I thank you for being out there. I know a lot of people were busy on yesterday. We gave the equivalency of 1,600 boxes of food yesterday. And believe me, I've been getting phone calls, but I told him, I said, look, I'm just an altar boy in this one. I'm not the post. That was one of the posts right there. Tim was calling him out. I mean, you took my job. I said, well, I'm going to eat. So go ahead and have a good one. But I just want to thank everybody that took part in. I know during the week it's hard for everybody to get away. Everybody have jobs or whatever. But it's appreciative when we can take it and our citizens. And I will say this right here, and I'll be honest with everybody. Yeah, it's the first time that we've done it. When, like I said, we have a witness here. It was like everybody was just happy. We didn't, when they asked for one, we just say, how many more? When I tell them they ask for 5, I say give them 10.
I told them we have a special today, 3 for free.
Yeah. But and we're doing it again on the 10th. So if y'all get a chance to stop by on the 10th, I'm not sure what date that is, but it's on the 10th. It's good when people see their elected officials out there and helping out. Because at the end of the day, we got to do what we got to do to do what we got to do. And I appreciate y'all coming, man.
Thank you.
At the end, I don't know if you guys told you had 5 of y'all trucks came in there one time to get the boxes, right? The guy behind me said, what's this? I said, well, the city taking everything, so y'all got to go. But I thank you, man.
You're welcome.
All right.
Anything else from Mr. Gill? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Mr. Tim Mader, city engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in front of you my monthly report. I have 2 action items that come under Public Works. The first of which is on page 3. It is the monthly partial payment estimate for Southern Constructors. It's on page 3 at item B in the left margin. Partial payment number 8. We do not have the numbers ready for you at this time. As usual, the cutoff date is the end of the month, January 31st. So the usual procedure is for you to approve the partial payment estimate in an amount to be provided to you at the February regular meeting next week.
I'll make that motion to forward that to the full council. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Second item I have is on page 5 of my report. It would be at item J at the bottom. I've handed out to you a packet of the bid tabulations, just like this. And what you see up front is actually the comparison of this year's bids for the various items to the bids going back to 2018. The first page is surface course aggregates, and I've shown in yellow and red there the bid price, $36.40, slight increase from what we did last summer. And you can see how it's fluctuated over the last several years. Proposal number 2 is co-mix. You see kind of a big jump there, not sure why. It's up and down depending on what the item is. Proposal number 3 is routing, cleaning, and sealing. We probably won't do much of that, if any, because we're going to go into the street improvement project. So we have a price in case it comes up between now and then. Proposal 4 is concrete pipe and arch pipe. A slight increase there over the last time we did it. And what I'm showing there are the pipe sizes we use most of, 15-inch and 18-inch. I didn't show all the sizes. We don't really use a lot of 24s and 30s and so on. Proposal number 5 is a comparison of the red polyvinyl chloride pipe, slight decrease in the cost again for 15s and 18s. Proposal number 6 is Portland cement concrete and flowable fill. I want to say that that's really good news that Portland cement is steady at 114, because we'll be getting into projects where concrete will be something that will be a cost factor, and we like to see that price is staying steady for now. Most importantly, on proposal 7, which is asphalt concrete hot mix, this is furnish only, but you can see that the cost of delivery of asphalt concrete hot mix is is steady, if it's picked up by the city, or it's actually decreased. So, we hope that the upcoming street bids, which is furnish and install, are gonna be reflective of a steady asphalt and concrete price. We felt like $80 to $90 a ton install was gonna be a good price. I still think that's a reasonably. Then following is actual bid tabulation, the legal size pages. Shown in yellow on each of those pages are the unit prices that we will award to contractors under the column those fall. Again, this is what you would be approving, the bid tabulation at your meeting next week. Any questions?
I'll make the motion to forward this to full council, the materials, 2021 materials contract for the full council's consideration. Seconded by Mr. Martin. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Those are the only action items I have for Public Works.
Thank you very much. Next, we have an action item to consider a resolution of the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Crowley, Katy Parish, Louisiana, fixing a date for a public hearing to be held to consider an ordinance to amend and reenact Article 3 of Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Crowley to add Section 13-30.1 to include regulations and permitting for private persons wishing to contract with the city of Crowley to provide construction services for the installation of culverts within a drain, ditch, or canal affecting public rights of ways within the corporate boundary, to repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances contrary thereto or in conflict therewith, to provide for the provisions hereof to be servable, and to provide for all matters relative thereto. Mr. Martin?
You want to tell me what the hell it means? Is that, we're changing, what are we changing?
Don't know, maybe the mayor could shed some light on. I didn't put this on the agenda, he did, so.
Well,
It's
your
something,
committee, I think
it's
it should.
something that the council has been asking for. Number one, is to be able to allow, the city of Crowley to become into an agreement with other people to be able to have culverts put in at a cost.
Why do we need this?
Yeah, that's a
Because
good
that's
question.
what you, why do you need this? Is what you guys been saying you wanted to get. Because you came up a while back with a, if I'm not mistaken, you came up with an Attorney General's opinion.
Yeah, that was almost 2 years ago, and I was chastised by the attorney for mentioning it, and I referred to revised statute 33, 488.4, that said that it was illegal to install culverts, and it's been going on for the last 2 years since then. What changed now? I mean, are you admitting that?
No, sir, I'm not admitting anything.
Okay, so then we don't need this. So I'm not
Actually,
gonna
if
make-
I may finish, Mr. Chairman.
There's no reason. Go ahead, Mr. Martin. You got the floor.
Okay. It was mentioned, and I had the blessing, well, sometimes it was a blessing, being represented on this council. I think it was 5 times, maybe 6, I don't know how long I've been here. And from day one, this city had a policy. You buy the culvert, the city installs the culvert for one reason,
Yes, sir.
that it be installed properly.
Correct.
Okay, there was no other charge. All of a sudden, I get calls from people, I don't know if, my other colleagues have. This guy told me to install a culvert, and he was told to buy it. That it would cost him with everything over close to $500 to install a 14-foot culvert. Okay, and he asked, why did I vote for that? I said, I never voted for anything. Okay, so now I'm asking the question, and Clint, I'm with you, and I'll yield back to you with this. 2 years ago, people got used to the fact of, buying or what have you, and having it installed. Now it looks like we are the ones that basically are the bad guys here. All right? So if they have to hire a contractor to go ahead and install this, Tim Maida, as our engineer, do you go with this person and make sure they have the right grade on this? Make sure they have, who does the inspection of the cars before and after the work is done? Even a better record, who gives them the indication of what size culvert would be official in that area? Does it go to you or does it go to, I'm asking, do anybody know?
I think that's it's in the code of ordinances.
Right.
And it's the, city inspector, to my knowledge, that is supposed to be overseeing that. But I think the problem is that it's not the city of Crowley, it's not the city council. This is the Louisiana State Legislature that has this out there. So it's not us being the bad guys. If it needs to be changed, it needs to be changed by them, not us.
Well, that's
And I think the bigger problem is that we were hiring people to put in culverts for people, which was to me even worse than if the city was doing it themselves and was costing the city even more money to have it installed. I agree with you, it was always done for a long time, but there, Mr. Cord could tell you right now that I think the Department of Transportation Development, they don't install culverts anymore for individuals. So it's not a matter of the city of Crowley, it's this revised statute, state legislature, that it's a law. It's not us, and we've gotten legal opinions on it. There's an AG opinion out there that says it can't be done.
Right.
So it's not our fault. I mean, it's.
All right, well, I'm just gonna take a chance to look in the audience and see if we have our city inspector here. That might be an answer. Do we have our city inspector? Yep. I kind of figured that. So right now, no one can tell me the basics of part 1, part 2, part 3 to fruition. Do you, Tim? Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
As it stands now, it's been for many years, if somebody wants culverts for a driveway or culverts for a ditch in front of their house, they would come to the city and make the request. They would purchase the pipe, the city would install it.
All right.
The statute that Clint is referring to has said that it's okay to do that, but the city has to be compensated for the cost.
Right.
Right, so right now, if that's the case, if we take that at face value, and by the way, it's a debatable thing because many communities continue to do this now. They still install pipes that are purchased by the resident and they don't charge anything, so.
Do they hire a contractor to do it, or do they do it?
That I don't know.
That's
another item that needs to be covered, but what I'm trying to explain here is that right now you have a choice that if somebody calls and asks you for this, that you have to refuse, because there's no setup for the city to be paid. So this ordinance is trying to set that up, and what the mayor's done is he contacted the city of Abbeville, and we have a schedule of fees to pay that's far less than what a contractor would be paid by that resident.
So the city would do it.
The city would do it, and if you'll turn to the ordinance that you have in front of you, I'm trying to get it in front of me. Turn to the proposed ordinance itself, and you look the third to last page, there's a schedule there. The following charges shall apply and be collected in advance. And this is what that resident would pay the city in order for the city to install the pipes that are purchased by them. And it's a fairly reasonable rate. This is again patterned after Abbeville, and if you would want to change that rate, you can surely do that between now and next month. But for the installation of 15-inch culvert and required inlets and other structures, $1 per linear foot. So a 14-foot culvert installed will cost $14.
Right, okay.
And do you think that the city of Crowley would be able to hire a contractor to come in and put a culvert in for $15?
No, sir. That's why I said you can change these as you see fit. If you want that dollar figure to be more so that you're better compensated if a contractor does it as opposed to your own forces, then yeah, you have the right now to change that schedule. But let me go on, of 18 is $1.50 per foot, 24-inch covered is $2 per foot, 30-inch, $2.25, 36-inch, $2.50. And you're gonna find, if you go look at Abbeville's ordinance, there's a couple of these pipe sizes that are not in their ordinance. I don't know why, but what we did was we proportioned it in the bill.
Right, okay. If I may,
Yeah,
now,
Mr. Smart.
this was brought in front of the LMA. This was brought. Matter of fact, I'm gonna call, Gallagher on tomorrow, if not on Monday. I was the one that proposed this through legislation, that it would be brought to the attention of the Attorney General. The fact that I got was that compensation is by the city. Okay? We can charge $1 just to install it. We don't have to charge by footage. Okay? And if I'm not mistaken, Mark had his people up there. I'm gonna have to call Mark. I'm pretty sure that's one thing about Mark, he's real diligent in this. But I remember that was one of the big sticklers. And the city at the time, whoever, Steve, you don't remember when we said we just gonna leave it as is? And, because the citizens are paying enough. And the reason why we said we're gonna leave it like it is, because who's to say that the contractor putting it in will have the right grade? So now we gotta get somebody that's on salary to go behind him. So why skip the altar boy and go to the pope? Okay, let the city of Crowley do it. If they do it wrong, that's on the city of Crowley. And if there's backup, God forbid, where the water instead of going where it should be going back up and houses get flooded, okay, what happens then? The contractor that we bought, well, I don't have that kind of insurance. Only thing I got insurance is on my vehicle to carry the dozer to put it in. Somebody got to pay for that. So why don't we as a council, now this, if I wanted to put in a culvert, and you tell me it's gonna be $1 a foot, I'm gonna say thank you. Okay? But to say that this guy said it was almost $500 a foot of 14 because he had to get a contractor, he had to come over here and get it inspected. And I told him, I said, hold it, man. I said, we have to talk about this. And I tried to call and I didn't get no response. So I said, you know what? Eventually we're gonna talk about it. And here it is, God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. We have enough burdens on our citizens already. Okay? Have y'all seen your water bill lately? No, hey. I had to call up there, hey man, what's going on here? I ain't got no damn pool. All right, well, that's, I said, okay, it is what it is. But we gotta be more of a steward of not only the money, but you know what the citizens say? They got them sitting at as they call it, the public barn doing nothing. Y'all got tractors over there, but you understand? They ride around here, they can dig it up. Why do we have to call someone? They pay taxes for this. So what I'm asking this council to do, and just my opinion and my ask, this, everybody has rules. And I would say this right here. I would not have any problems paying this fee. Jeff, you handle finances. You understand what I'm saying? And look, everybody has a part in this. So let's do something, and this has already been proven by Attorney General. Am I right, Jim?
As far as I know?
Yeah, it has been. It has been. Because this was brought to the LMA. This was on one of, I forgot what convention it was. It might have been the street board. But this was brought up. And we had everybody raising their hands saying, we don't do it like that. Okay? One said they get the parish to do it. They pay the parish. I'm like, why would you pay the parish when you got the equipment? Well, we don't have the equipment. Well, guess what? I use the term where rain is right there. Rain don't have the equipment. They call Crowley. I'm pretty sure we're along with the equipment. They pay whatever it is, manpower and gas to do it. So I would ask the council this is a good, I'm gonna say it again. I would not have no problem paying $1 a foot. If I put a 12-foot culvert and then it cost me $12, hey man, that's a blessing right there. So that's just me. Thank you.
I think Mr. Bell was next. Mr. Bell?
Yeah, the other side to this revised statute that was in question, that is part of the whole opinion, was that, yes, they have to get compensated, but it also has to serve as a benefit to the public at large. The installation of covers and drains, ditches, and canals benefits the public at large, including reduction of maintenance costs and city improved aesthetic appearance of the street and rights of way. That is what's been the defense all this time for the municipalities that have continued to do this, to continue that way. So if you combine not only that, which we do satisfy, with what Mr. Martin was in favor of as well, I think we satisfy the whole ordinance that's in question and still able to achieve for the citizens what they would like.
Mr. Poole?
The only concern I have is what I interpreted from the Attorney General, from the Attorney General's opinion and our legal opinion, is that the city cannot give something of value away. And that's the only question I have. If I've recommended that the legal opinion be provided to our city auditor to get his thoughts on if that's permissible, to give installation of a culvert at $12, if the going rate is $120, the difference would be something of value. If, that's the only concern I have.
I think what you're saying is that if we're gonna charge the person $15 a foot, and the city has to hire a contractor to go do it, and it ends up costing $100,000 to put in then the city's gonna have to pay the difference. And I think that.
Yes, that difference may be made up by the benefit to the city
Exactly.
in all and what was
Well,
said.
but you can't measure that. How are you gonna measure that?
I don't think it's intended, excuse me, but I don't think it's intended to be measured per se, since you're doing it as a benefit to both the city and the citizen. You know, it's not something the city's gonna be making money off of.
Well, for instance, along Oddfellows Road, wants the ditch closed. And let's say we're gonna go to the city, every property owner along there. And for the size, it just says, assume it's a 42-inch culvert. $3 a foot to do a mile of frontage is that something that we're looking at? Because it will give certainly aesthetics. I know this because the state of Louisiana Department of Transportation doesn't do it. Most parishes don't do it. And that's the only concern I have. We've got to look at the overall picture, it's not one particular property.
And it may be something that we may have to wait till we have an attorney here to make sure that we're doing it right or whatever. I think you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to answer some of your questions, Mr. Core, the auditors said that we can install pipe with an agreement from as long as it gets in the city right away. As long as we have the agreement with that particular home property owner.
Oh, I understand that, Mayor. I'm talking about the difference in the cost of the taxpayer versus what that individual is gonna pay to get that benefits him. That's my concern, is giving something of value.
And then, I'm not gonna name the cities, but one of them, Mr. Mayor mentioned Abbeville, I called other cities. And, Abbeville was one of the only cities of the other three that are charging. The other three are not. And they were doing, and just like Mr. Martin was saying, it could be interpreted different ways. And it was done for many, many years, as providing it as a service to the taxpayers. So Abbeville had it set up, like Mr. Mayor said, and they checked, once they had everything done and all the information there, their attorney said that was sufficient enough to do what's called like a quid pro quo and make sure that you got something for that dollar, the taxpayer dollar.
I think Mr. Martin was next.
Okay, Jeff, right, this should answer the question. And I consider myself having a damn good memory. One of the proponents during the meeting said this: if I don't have someone there, this is my problem, okay? And he said this, and everybody just went crazy. I tell you what, I'm gonna fill in my ditch. I'm gonna fill in my ditch. What's gonna happen then? But guess what? There's no beneficiary to the city because the water can't flow. But he has the right to do what he wants with his property. No, hold on. This was one of the things the guy was saying. They made it clear to him as this: the city has the right of way from the middle of that road to 40 feet into your property. I'm not sure, I would ask, Tim, is it still 40 feet?
So 40, some 30.
Okay, 40, some 30. Okay. Listen, the flow of water got to go somewhere. And he go, and you know the first thing somebody gonna say was, I'm gonna have to get 2 yards of dirt to put it there. I'm just gonna put 1 yard of dirt. So now, you have just excuse the illustration, this is the ditch, and this is the culvert that he got right there. You understand? Because he refused to put another yard of dirt to bring it down to where it needs. So, it's beneficial for the city. And Jeff, I agree with you 100% with this. Because right now, we talk about apples and oranges, but one is not germane to the other. This right here, believe you me, it had to go to scrutiny for Abbeville to do this. And the mayor just told you. Most of the city said, hey, the only thing they couldn't do was buy it. We don't need to go to no outside contract. If we have to buy another excavator, what have you, just for that, that's fine. Because think about it, if you got 100 people and they got, let's say, altogether got 1,000 feet of the 16 that 150, whatever, that's money the city makes. Okay, we're using manpower, but the city's still making money because they're being charged so much by the foot. And the other question, who maintains that? The city of Crowley. Nobody leaves their house and make sure that they drain, their culvert is clean. That's the reason there's so much soot right now. And I don't know if y'all know, but Rain came up with a machine, man, that was the simplest thing in the world.
We're going to be using it, yes.
Exactly, the simplest, all it is a rubber tire on one side and pulling everything out. And I told, look, I had to get a chance. I said, Chuck, if this would be my invention, ain't nobody getting nothing for it. That pattern would have been mine. But he spread it around to everybody. That's what's the problem. The soot builds up in the silt, whatever, the silt builds up. The rest, during the rain, just like during the flood, everybody say, well, the water's clean. No, that water runs through your house, you have mud in your house. I don't care what you do. So I would say this to the body. If we're gonna do anything, we have a proven theory right here. It's been proven. And it's been accepted, whether it was challenged through the legislature, whatever, Abbeville is doing it. And once again, not to be pounded on the neck, but we were doing it for nothing, not charging. But the bottom line is, I agree with you. We cannot have nobody from the outside put them in.
That's,
Right, well, okay, well, that's money down the drain. So I would think this right here, if we're gonna be, conducive to the needs of Crowley, it is part of the needs of Crowley. The water has to flow, okay? We can't have everybody stopping up their, driveway and say, you know what, instead of put a car, I'm just gonna dump concrete right there. Then we got another problem.
Mr. Chairman.
yes, sir.
Also, Mr. Martin, I have to agree with you as well. And what has been happening in the past, in some cases, people have been putting in their own culverts
In the wrong side.
with their wrong, it's correct, some of the wrong sizes, and also, have been putting in their own culverts, hiring their own contractors, but yet have failed to come to City Hall to purchase a excavating permit. And that's what that permit is in place for, is to make sure that we get proper sizes in place. And I just wanted to give that information.
Mr. Cavell, I think you were next.
Yeah, I also just want to remind everybody on the committee, since I'm not, this is just to bring to the full council to set a public hearing. It's not a discussion on the pros and cons of the culvert. Just to set a public hearing by the full council next week.
Mr. Court.
Don't mention the same thing.
Yeah, just fix it now, fix the date. That's correct.
Any other discussion? Oh, no, I'm sorry, we didn't make a motion. Nobody made a motion to forward this to the full council.
Well, you have to offer it, okay. I'll second it.
Offered by Mr. Vogel, seconded by Mr. Martin. Now, any discussion?
No, that's good.
And I'll say this, I don't think that it's a matter of, I agree with you 100%. I think going back, we should have done this 2 years ago when I first brought it up before the council and was chastised for doing so. And I'm glad something is finally being addressed now, but that was kind of the point that I was trying to make through all of this. And, any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Are there any other legal items to come before the council and this committee, in the Public Works Committee recess?
All right, next is, utility committee, Mr. Martin.
Sir. Yeah, okay, utility committee, gonna go ahead and convene. We do have a quorum present. the only thing on the agenda, Tim, looks like it's your show again. Wait, what Tim? Oh, I mean, that Tim, I'm sorry. Look, we got three Tims here, okay. Tim first. We'll get it right.
Good afternoon. Couple of quick things, we received 56, requests, work order wise. 51 of those have been, completed, the other 5 require additional, attention. We received 128 Louisiana one-call locates. An additional 58 of those were updated where we had to return to the site 13 emergencies for a total of 199 one-call locates for the month of January.
That's all together?
It's all together 199. All of our equipment is up and running, pumps are in proper working order at this time. Nothing more to report. Anybody has any questions?
Well, I just wanna thank you for doing that on, no problem.
That's good.
Any other questions, Ms. Craig? No one? No other questions, Ms. Craig?
All right, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Wade, it's your shift.
I'm up.
Yeah.
Okay, I have, 2 action items for, council and the utility committee in the form of, a resolution in both, instances. The first resolution I gave you is a resolution, regarding the, capital outlay grant for the Commonwealth project. And what it's doing is it's, authorizing the mayor to sign the cooperative endeavor agreement between the city and Facility Planning and Control so that, that project can get underway.
Okay, I know you just handed me, I always take work, I know that one. Well, we'll offer that bread.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, need a motion to, well, this is the first one right here, Tim? Yeah. Installation.
That's the first one. Let me add to it, at the very last page of my engineer's report lays out all the capital outlay requests. And this one is on that page, it's page 28 of my report, is, item number 6 is the commonality for the main pump station. We have $405,000 in CARD 2 money, and that's the money that we're gonna be pursuing with this, cooperative endeavor agreement that's before you now.
Okay. So we're gonna bring the motion to the floor, and I'm gonna read it out. The motion to resolution of the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Crowley authorizing the mayor to sign and submit cooperative endeavor agreement between the state of Louisiana and the city of Crowley for the planning and construction of work associated with the proposed installation of a common unit at the city of Crowley main sewage pump station project. And I guess one off from the offered. That's it. It was offered by Ms. Carver, second by Mr. Craig. All in favor? Aye. Those have the same right. We have any, comments or anybody got any questions? This is something that is still working right now, right, Jim?
There is no commonality working at all,
It's not?
none.
Wow.
Been that way for 15 years.
Wait, hold on.
I've not had a coming in. Guys, the wastewater been working, cleaning those cables by hand.
Well, the first question I have, and I have to ask is, why wasn't it for Tim Craig? Tim, you can speak, big league? And I know you are the recent, director of over there, okay? While you were working there, what was the guy's name? Who died before you?
Woody.
Woody, okay. From my, refresh my attention that the common noodle was not working. And before we do anything, what the heck is a common noodle?
It's a cleaner for the,
Comminutor is a grinder, it's a
Yeah.
very large, probably 100 horsepower, piece of equipment that grinds up bricks and anything that comes into the main pump station. So it doesn't get into a pump working itself.
Okay, and once again, it was just, said, that's the reason why you had, that you was trying, that's the reason why you had manpower handling.
Right, the comminutor was, removed.
And that, it's my first time, I've heard the word, but I've never, said we need a new company. But those words are never, no, not me, I'm talking about when, you said it's been over 15 years or more? Tell me.
It's been a period of time.
Been more than
10 to 15.
10 to 15 years.
It's been a while. And the reason it hasn't been done is because there was a way to do it, it didn't cost money, and there was no money. That's basically what, that's why we went for the grant.
Okay, well, so this right here, the money, where the money be there? Is it there to replace it?
As soon as we get the cooperative endeavor agreement executed, we will go to the next step, which will be to get into the preparation of plans and the bid process. The city will have to put up 25% of the cost, and that's in that, attachment D. We're estimating the city will have to put up about $135,000 to match that 75%.
Okay, so, motion, anybody got any other questions? I'm confused. Thank you, appreciate it. All right, so the motion passed, correct? We did vote on the motion, right? Everybody? Okay. Okay, Tim, what's your next one?
Who made the vote?
It was offered by, John, it was offered by Bill.
Second by-
Second,
Offered by Mr.
no, it was second by Frank.
Oh, good.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
And you need a vote?
Yeah,
We voted on
yeah, we
it.
voted, yeah. passed
Then we
it.
discussed it.
Okay, all right, Jim, what's the next one?
The next one, resolution behind that. I put another resolution behind that first one. This is similarly for a capital outlay grant for the extension of a sewers line along Rice Capital Parkway. By the way, both of these grant applications have been applied for every year for at least 5, maybe 10 years. And we're just now seeing some funding on them trickle in. There's a little problem with this one in that the funding that we have money available and for which this cooperative endeavor agreement will apply is $100,000. But the project is, and again, if you look on the last page, right in there before page 28, you'll see item 2, Rice Capital Parkway sewage extension. We have $100,000 in priority 2. And the grant amount that we're looking for is $1.32 million. The city would have to come up with $442,000 to match that. The city applied for this grant, again, many years ago as an economic development pursuit, with the hopes that if they get state money, 75% of the cost, that then we would go to property owners and have the property owners put up what would be the city share. I don't personally see this as a project that the city should spend any money on. If you can get a grant and then go to the property owners who need sewage and say, you can get sewage now for 25 cents on the dollar, then you get that funding from that property owner and developer and proceed with it. Right now, all you're gonna get by the mayor signing this cooperative agreement is $100,000, of which you can do nothing. But at least you have that for next year, maybe they'll fund it in a greater amount. But I would not suggest or recommend that the council would go forward with this unless they got the full grant, and they got a cooperative endeavor agreement from the property owner developer to put out that other shit.
Mr. Moore?
Okay, yes, okay, well, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
yes, sure.
I'm sorry, I'm back to you, I didn't see you when you got up, sorry. Who's that? Okay, you recognize me? That's fine, okay, hold on, state your name, please.
Shirley Bracken.
Press the button.
Press the button,
Press-
When all of the sewage was being put down before, Dixiefield Properties was not given the choice of where it was going to be run, how they wanted to do it, and it ended up costing double of what they were going to do. I asked about funds and grants at a meeting with the mayor and Tim, Huff Powers, and Dave and I. And I was told funds and grants was nowhere near available. Now they're coming out with funds or grants, whatever it is. Will that be retroactive? It was well over $140,000 to $160,000, I'm not sure, that the Braddens and the Huff Powers have already paid to get the sewage to where it is now. So will the grants be retroactive for the people who have already paid money to have the city sewage put in the way the city wanted?
Mr. Bradford, if you don't mind, I think that's a Tim May question right there.
Yeah, the straight answer is no. This money is to do on the property to the east of Dixie Field, what the city did probably 10 or 15 years ago on the west side, which is to run a sewer line along I-10. What we did back then was run that sewer line. We actually built a pump station, crossed I-10, ran that deep line along I-10 to the west of Cherokee Road. What you had done last year was what the property owner to the east have to do is extend sewer lines from this extension into their property for people who buy lots. So the treatment is fairly comparable whether you're on the west side or the east side of the property. This grant is to help the city pay for the extension to the east, and years ago, the city paid in full for the extension to the west.
Okay,
That makes no sense to me, because the city put the sewage underneath the interstate with grants and bonds, grants and bonds, I was told the day of that meeting, to get it underneath interstate to where it was already. But yet, when it came time for the sewage to be put down on Dixiefield properties, there were no more funds and grants. And the city did run it, supposedly, from underneath interstate to Dixiefield properties. They ran it to the west, which had nothing to do with Dixiefield properties at the time. So my question is, again, Dixiefield Properties has picked up the cost from that sewer manhole or whatever it's called, have Dixiefield and split that money from it running from the manhole to the east, to the gully, and then north to the new Rice Capital Parkway. Will they be able to get any of their money back? That's my question. Because we were told, no, there was no grants and bonds available to run it any further. We had to pay to get it to the east, to the north, and split it with Huffars. And it was between $140 and $160 that the city made the recommendations of how deep and how far, and then it was up to the property owner to do it. Now you're saying that they're gonna do bonds and grants, whichever it is, from the east, from where we had to pay for it. That's what I heard you say. Yes, sir?
yeah, good.
There is no grant yet nearly enough to do what we want. It would be a grant if we get it. The only thing that the city is apt to get right now is $100,000, which doesn't pay for anything. There's nothing we can do with $100,000. So we do not have a grant yet that is enough to build a line to the east.
Well, there was, like I said, between $140 and $160, and it ran a pretty good ways. So I don't see where the city couldn't have $100,000 to help pay for what Dixie Field property had to put in, with no grants and bonds. But yet it came across from Oddfellows Road on private property, and not grants and bonds was used to get it there. To the service main that went underneath interstate. Grants and bonds is what y'all told me that day that it was put in with. But then you couldn't do anything from that point on. That it was up to the property owners to do the rest of it. And now you're coming up with grants going further to the east. And I don't understand that. Maybe somebody else can.
All right. So, once again, we got an issue that's partly germane and partly not. What Ms. Brighton saying, and I I'm trying to take notes, is that, between, Dixie Fields and the Huff Towers, y'all ran from, west, correct?
Yeah, we had to go.
Okay, I know the
from
state,
there.
I know we bored under I-10 to get it there, I remember that.
Y'all,
okay.
y'all,
Right,
but that was done with bonds and grants, is what we were told in the meeting.
right.
But then, when it came time to put it down, we were gonna go straight north, and the city would not, to the lot that needs to be, the city would not allow it.
Okay, well, I have the, how much you say that y'all spend on it?
I don't know, $140,000, $160,000.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have $160,000 question. Since it was private funds that were used, we have gone through this, in my business, I understand where you're going with this. Okay, since it was private funds that were used to extend it from the west, do they have, and I guess this would be a legal question, do they have a right to abandon where they stopped? Where the city would actually have to pay to, everybody understand what I'm saying? In other words, where she's at right here, on the west side, the city is anticipating on the east side. Since this was done with private funds, do they have a right to abandon it right where it ended? Or do we go into another situation where it becomes, eminent domain? Okay, that's the question, okay, Tim?
Now, when that line was built, that Shirley's talking about, it was turned over to the city owns it, it's in an easement that's dedicated to the city.
Okay, so the city owns it now.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, in fact, I was trying to get to the end, I'm trying to, picture what's going on, because I know a lot of times, when you use private funds, city cannot tell you what to do with, you understand what I'm saying, it's private funds, okay? It has no germane to, well, we need it, well, if you need it, you will pay for it. But as of right now, you got to go parallel to it, we got to get where you got to go. So, Tim, again.
And just one last thing is, what I said just about 5 or 2 minutes ago, this project's a no-go unless private owner on the east side puts up $445,000. So it's gonna be funded by grant and $445,000 worth of private money, not city money.
So, the tenants or the landowners that are there now have to contribute to the,
They don't have to, but if the city gets a grant of $1.2 million,
right,
and we go to that property owner and say, we can build a sewer line, but you gotta put up $442,000 for the city's match, and they refuse to do it, then the city just won't take the grant.
oh, so it's a carry-on. So basically, they have the right to refuse and it disappears.
That's right.
Mr. Martin?
Okay.
I wanted to ask Tim later, if I'm not mistaken, of that 1.3 or 1.4 million that was requested in the grant, there was only 100,000 in P2, am I correct?
That's correct. That's the 100,000 that.
That P2 could stay there for 2 or 4 more years, we don't
That's
even know
correct.
that. Am I correct?
Yes, you don't have a grant that you can do anything.
Okay, Ms. Bryant, you mind coming up? Oh, Mr. Bryant, okay, good. State your name, sir, for the record.
Press button.
My name's Dave Bratton.
Here to turn this, thank you.
My name's Dave Bratton. And some of what was said isn't quite correct, but we needed to run sewer to a certain point on our property. And the cost was estimated to be $65,000.
Okay.
We were not allowed to do that. We had to go to the west, then go to the north, and then go back to where we wanted.
So
And
original was 65,000.
the whole deal ended up costing about $160,000. But I was told we could not do it that way because the city wanted to be able to tie onto it and use it for future development. Well, I don't feel like it's my deal or my responsibility to provide for the city's future development. And we ended up spending a bunch of money out there just to satisfy some people here. And it's kind of a bitter pill to swallow, and I don't like it, and I won't like it next year. But
Okay, can I ask
it
you a
is like
question?
it is.
Okay, right. You do understand what Mr. Mayor said, that y'all have the power to say it's a no-go. Am I right, Tim? Am I right?
I didn't ask the city to do squat.
I got
We
you.
were gonna run it up here for $65,000, but no, we couldn't do it, we had to go around, so
Right.
the city could use it. Well, I don't care if the city ever uses it.
But what I'm understanding is, I'm one guy, I like to have, clearance on everything on the table, okay? You do And according to what our engineer just said, if you as a private property owner, Tim, correct me if I get off course here. If we get this grant and, private money is needed, and we go to, the Bronx or whoever, and they say we're not putting a dime, does that mean that the grant has to be reversed?
I'm saying that I don't think the city should put up city money to run a sewer line for a private development.
And I agree with that. They shouldn't, but the city shouldn't dictate how I have to run it to benefit the city when I need it over here. And the costs go from 65 to 160 for me to get it there.
And if I remember correctly, the landowner to the east paid a portion of that cost because it had to be deepened to serve them in the future. There was an agreement made that the Huff Power was right.
But it was a screwed up deal the whole way through, and I don't expect it to be
Okay,
resolved.
and I'm asking this question, and this just for FYI, are we chipping into something legal right here? I wanna make sure of this, yeah, I do understand what's going on here, right? I mean, from what I'm hearing, I'm hearing both sides, that they had, an estimated cost of $65,000, but it wind up being $160,000 because the city implemented certain, guidelines that, thank you, Tim, that they had to follow. Well, that's what I'm asking, I'm trying to clear,
It's not nearly as simple as that.
okay?
And all we're asking right now is to set up the possibility that you're gonna get a grant to extend the line to Tower Road in the future to foster development. That's all that's on the table now, and you may not ever get that grant. So everything else that we're talking about is really moot. If we don't get the mayor to sign the cooperative endeavor agreement, there'll never be a chance for a grant.
One other statement. You mentioned something about it being legal, or
Well, no, I'm asking, because we don't have the right to, venture in any type of legal, entity right now. We don't,
whenever this first came up,
right?
Dave was called into the city attorney's office and they discussed it. And he still wanted to run to the north. Well, you can't do that, but there would be a lawsuit. So that's about as legal as we know.
A lawsuit,
Against Dave.
yeah. So, all right, let's get back on track. So, if this body feels that they want this, endeavor to go, to give the mayor the power to go ahead and sign this, what is the other alternative? If the mayor does not, if this body say, you know what, I'm not gonna allow it to come. Does this, the property maintains as it is? I know something, what is being built out there? Is that some type of business? Okay, okay. Does this affect that that's out there now? I'm asking, I don't know.
No,
Okay. So basically, they can deal with the sewage that they have.
yes,
We're talking about going to the east of it, correct?
yes.
Okay, all right, I'm clear with that now. Well, we have to call for the question. I don't know if there's any other comments. Anybody have any other comment? Well, I'll make a motion that, we call, I'm gonna read it out. I can find it, hang on a second.
You read it already, Mr.
All right, here we go. Thank you. Okay, all right. What is being offered is a resolution of the mayor and the board of aldermen of the city of Crowley to authorize. Okay, I think this is great. I'm gonna read it as it is. A resolution of the mayor and the board of aldermen of the city of Crowley authorizing the mayor to sign and submit the cooperative endeavor agreement between the state of Louisiana and the city of Crowley for the planning and construction work associated with the proposed, and I won't say proposed, public sewer extension along north of I-10 Service Road, Rice Capital Parkway project. And before you vote on it, and I'm gonna ask, I don't know if you have Tom, but this right here to me is not, and I'm gonna read it again. A resolution of the mayor and the board of aldermen. Shouldn't it be the board of aldermen? Because you can't vote for yourself. Am I right? it says right here, a resolution of the mayor and the board of aldermen. Okay, it should be a resolution of the board of aldermen of the city of Crowley authorizing the mayor. All right,
Yeah.
okay, I mean, look, legal is what I do, okay, Jeff?
I'll just say this much, of all the resolutions that the attorney did develop, that's exactly the word he used.
I never noticed it before, man. I mean, it's my first time reading. I mean, ask, because you know we usually vote on it, whatever. So, Jim, would there any way possible we can, before we give you authorization? Because it's like, you don't need us. It's saying, you know,
Well, I understand what you're saying, and we just voted on the previous resolution that has worded the same way.
so if you can change one, it can change to the other.
We know what we meaning,
Okay, all right.
we know what we meaning, and the board is authorizing me to continue with this agreement, and to sign this agreement so we can continue. And I'm sure that's what he meant, but we'll let him officially say that.
When you're dealing with legal, what you may want to mean doesn't always mean, okay? We don't play on words here, but I'm offered as read.
Okay.
Okay. Can you get a, motion on, offered as read?
Martin, you offered it, and it was seconded by Mr. Gray.
Okay, well, okay, I'm waiting for someone to second, I'm sorry.
I did.
All right, well, second by, all right,
It's already in process.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That's all the action items I have for our report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, anything else to come before you, Jill?
I just have a question.
Okay,
Why weren't these on the agenda? I'm just wondering, like the action items, they weren't listed on the agenda.
I've always just put them in my report.
Oh,
okay, wait, hold it. Okay, Tim, so that's extension of your report.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. That's because of legal. That's a good find right there. If it's not on the agenda, it doesn't exist. Okay, unless there was a motion to amend the agenda. Anybody? No one made a motion. So we good with it. That's part of his report. Okay. Anything else to come before, children? Y'all can have, we'll recess. I'm sorry, this thing won't go off. We keep hitting it, but
That's all right.
It
You
was
did
all-
good. You just did.
that's
Now
what
it's
I'm saying.
all-
It blinks off and it comes right
That's
back
okay.
on.
you got it.
There you go.
You got it.
No, okay, right back.
That's all right. We'll-
I think
we'll
I'm
check.
gonna move this thing back.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Recreation Committee, Mr. Primo.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, Recreation Committee will convene. First off, we'll have the director's report. Peter?
Good evening. Registration for the baseball and softball youth season is now open and will continue through the end of the month. Work continues on the fields. We have 4 fields right now that have completed concrete work. It's Miller, Heritage, Bronco, and Pony Fields. That they have, Miller, Heritage, Bronco, and Mustang Fields that have concrete poured to completion. 3 of those fields have turf laid down. They're Miller, Bronco, and Mustang. Turf should start being laid down next week on Heritage Field. And Heritage Field, for those of us that are over 40, that's the old girls' park. The light poles are currently being installed at Mustang Field, then they'll move on to Heritage Field, then on to Pony Field. They'll follow in a linear motion as the cement and turf crew does. So Miller Stadium and Bronco Field still have some fencing that needs to be installed, and that work should be started by the end of this week, moving through the weekend into next week. Work also continues on the Rice Festival building renovation. All of the old suspended ceiling is torn out, the walls are being cleaned, and the painters are working diligently to get it painted, and I just can't remember paint smelling so strong, but it's progress. Along with that, I'd like to bring in front to council the application for payment submitted for the completed work on the Rice Festival building. It's a partial payment submitted by Habits Contractors or Habits Builders, the contract on the project, for $32,700.22.
What is it?
Partial completion payment on the Rice Festival building renovation. That was the grant money.
Right. How much?
$32,711.22. Sir?
No,
You
you
know,
got it.
we're just
You got it.
correcting your math. That's okay.
We're in the millions now, you know.
Okay, do we have a motion for partial payment? Okay, motion by Mr. Crater, second by Mr. Wilridge. Any other discussion? Okay, by Mr. Cavell. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that payment? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Any other questions?
About this,
Mr. Crater?
I have a question for you, I want to make sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Clint.
Okay, Peter, I know everybody here is well aware of the picture that came out on Facebook and whatever, and everybody's concerned about the work that's going on out there. I went out there, walked around with you, we found several things that are messed up. I just wanna know where are the checks and balances, what is the process, who approved the plans, was all of this on the original plans that were approved and by whom? And just kind of give us some insight on that, because, as a project manager, there's a lot of things out there that I would have approved of, and I don't know what the process is, who's approving all this stuff, and if SP has been involved, because I know they're paying for it, ultimately, we're just using it. So just kind of, can you or somebody tell me what exactly is the process for this, and where are the checks and balances, who's overseeing what's going on out there?
We know the concerns. We brought them up to Charles Dawson, who's the owner of Geo Services. He's where the answers lie. And he's aware of our concerns and our questions, and I have him scheduled to be in front of council for the full council meeting next week. So the concerns about who approved and his paperwork that he has, he'll have that information with him to answer all those questions next week. I can't speak for anyone other than myself, did not approve a contract or a contractor's print or anything of that nature.
Have you seen the print? Have you seen
No,
it
because the
drawn?
way I understand it is SP is the bank. They're the owners, it's theirs. So that's some questions that Mr. Dawson will have to answer about if there's I don't want to say a change order, but who approved? So the only print that I got was the same print that you got that was in the business plan that gave an area.
This-
Yes,
Yes,
I see it here.
everything is very symmetrical, everything is perfect.
right. And that's the only thing that I got pre-construction.
Okay.
So,
And will Mr. Jason or somebody representing SP also be here or be aware of what's happening?
I can reach out.
Ultimately, they're the ones that are footing the bill for all of this,
Right.
with our approval.
What I'd like to do this time is get Mr. Dawson here, who's building it, and let him answer for what's going on, and see what he says, and then we'll get SP and those guys involved. But if everyone's more comfortable with SP being here next week with Mr. Dawson, I'll reach out and line it up. Yes, sir.
Mr. Martin?
Okay. Peter,
Yes, sir.
you are the director,
Yes, sir.
and this is just, I'm sorry, okay, this is just protocol.
Yes, sir.
As director, you're the eyes and ears for the city.
Yes, sir.
And maybe it's me, but if I am director, that's the reason why the president has a cap, okay? Everything goes through him. It doesn't matter what it is. You don't talk to nobody but his cap, okay? Listen, I don't know what's the directive or what's the narrative, how they handle their business. But if you remember, when it was brought up, I asked you, well, I asked him, I said, well, will our recreation department director have a say and see everything that's going on? They said yes. So you telling me as of the day, and look, Peter, it is what it is. If they're not giving you what you feel you should have, well, this body here needs to transcend and make it happen. Because we don't know what's going on until, you're the only one giving a report. We have nobody else to give them a report.
Yes,
And I haven't seen it on Facebook, but I heard about it. Okay? Okay, so listen, I don't know if it's the, I'm not on the committee, but I'm a voting member, on the full council. I would ask this, that we put, in place protocol where anything that's being done, if it doesn't go through you, it's either approved by you, giving you the responsibility to call the mayor, and I'm pretty sure the mayor will call and say, well, look, things are not going the way, we need to have a meeting with it, okay? I mean, because the mayor's your boss.
yes,
But basically, with them being out there, you're their boss, because they're on your property. I mean, you know what I'm saying, you're in charge.
yes.
So I would ask this committee to, whether it's a redoing of the contract, or whatever it is, but somebody gotta be, held accountable here, man. We turning over keys to, you know, let's say, I hate to say it, we turn over keys to the bank.
Still, I think that's why we need to wait and hear what Mr. Dawson has to say next Wednesday. He should be able to answer all these questions that we have for him then.
But see, you still not understanding what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand
Whether
what
he-
you're saying.
Whether he comes in or not, we have to have eyes and ears that needs to be, touched upon. This is
Listen,
correct. If
I'm
we
gonna
go
add
wrong,
this.
we're talking to him. We're not talking to these other people. That's just me. Somebody gotta be held accountable.
Mr. Morgan, I'm gonna add this to the conversation. Nobody, myself, or on the city's behalf, has told Geo Surfaces or SP that we accept with what's out there right now. Nobody ever said we're okay with it. Nobody ever said that we agree to it.
Okay.
So they're still under contract.
Right.
And at the end of the contract, from what I understand, the way it was explained to me, there's gonna be a walkthrough for inspection. At that time, we can list out all the objections that we have to what's out there or what's not out there. And they'll have time to correct it. Now, we're catching it as it goes,
Right.
but Mr. Dawson will be here next week to address what we found at this point.
Good enough. Well, I mean, hey, look, I'm looking out for you and
Yes.
also the city.
Yes.
Because if anything goes, south, we're looking at people. We're not looking at whoever that.
I understand.
All right, that's, thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Craig.
Yeah, and my concern, Steph, is that it's gone so far already that there may not be any turning back, that we're gonna be
Yeah.
told, look, we've already done it, the turf is down, we can't pick up the turf up, it's all done. This is, you can just have to accept it. You know, I saw they built a retaining wall out there, not a retaining wall, but a backstop, and they built the backstop, but they didn't line it up, they didn't square it off with the stadium. So it's off, and the guy was saying, well, it's gonna be off because the field it now has shifted, it's not gonna be right when you're sitting in stands. But they're the ones that built the wall improperly, in my opinion, that it should have been squared off with the stands to begin with, because we're starting, especially at Heritage, we're starting from scratch, basically. I mean, there's two dugouts that are really dog kennels is all they are, they need to be replaced anyway. So that was the opportunity right then and there to do it right, and have the fences and the backstop and everything symmetrical and perfect. But that didn't happen, I can tell you now. I can go out there, you're a construction guy, I can go out there and show you. You would say, what? How
Well,
could
I
that
can tell
happen?
you this right here, and I'm gonna call it like it is. Once we build a damn house, it's over with.
Yeah.
You can't come back to me and say, hey, man, the foundation is not right. Well, you should, you know, when it was forward, you should have been there, okay? So I'm gonna tell you right now, if you see something right there, this man should have had the authority, you being a council member, to tell him, hey, Pete, the backstop not right. Get these guys here, tear it down right now before they get any further. It's made of concrete, right?
blocks.
Blocks? Well, that's something.
Yeah, but now the fence is up, and, I mean, it's way further along than that.
Well, so in other words, and I'm gonna say it like this, I know the way, the high school association, and y'all know if you do anything in sports, they are very, quote unquote, particular about that. Because remember, that bat is facing a certain way, all right? It's kind of weird to say that, but anyways, all right.
Mr. Cavell.
All right, first off, there's nothing wrong with the dimensions of the field. Okay, I just want to get that right off the bat. Okay? The dimensions of the field are true to both Major League, Collegiate, and National Federation of High School. Okay? What you're seeing is that a field that is perfectly dimensional being retrofitted within an 80-year-old complex that you can't guarantee that 80 years ago was proportional outside walls to what needs to be inside. So what you have to find out is that the left field wall, that the outside confine dug out through that fence, is approximately, just walking it off, 12 feet less than you have on the right side. Now, yeah, you got that, put a tape on it, okay? And that's why it looks like it's off. Yeah, you don't center it, actually, you don't center it to a grandstand, you center it to the centermost point for Major League Baseball, centermost point with the outside
Hold it
field.
down, hold it down.
You got to have minimum 325 on the sidewalk, sidelines, or, sidelines, thank you, sorry. And a minimum of 400 dead center.
Like
You
I
don't
said,
even need
I'm only
coaching
going by what
boxes
y'all said.
marked off. And as long as you have a 90-foot square in the infield and 60 feet 6 inches from pitcher's mound to home plate, you're good. Now, aesthetically, it doesn't necessarily look right, but again, you're looking at retrofitting something that's perfect as far as what it is now into something that's 80 years old. The only way to really twist it that I can see would actually take out a back wall or reduce the right field line to twist them back so it would be actually perfect. But then you're not dealing with the same distance on this field as this line.
But can someone in the bleachers notice it?
Oh, my goodness.
Well, yeah, you can notice it, just like when Minute Maid Park was built, you notice there's a mountain running in the field. Just like if you go to Wrigley Field, you notice the same thing we have. Their foul lines are a lot closer on one side than the other side. Major League ballparks build them that way for home field advantage in many cases.
Well, I mean, look, I haven't seen, I'm listening to what y'all saying, but I'm just saying that we should have a person that's, a representative of the city. The mayor can't be there, he's just on the ground. Every time that they, come and say, okay, we're finishing this right, they you wanna see it before we do the last, you understand, pour the resin in the concrete or whatever it may be. You understand what I'm saying? At least he'll know, well, I don't like this. All right, well, let's take it up now before we go any further.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
But that's
But I
one
think
thing
going
I'm
further
pushing.
without Mr. Charles and the like being here to give full explanation, I think we're just gonna be going in
Yes.
circles at this point.
Yeah, let's wait to get the answers from Mr. Dawson next week.
Yeah, Mr. Freeman.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I would just like to add, according to what Peter said and what Steph said, or whoever may have said it, there will be a representative from SP that will be available at that meeting because we signed a contract with SP, not with Geoservices.
Right.
So we'll make sure of that.
Clint,
And my biggest point is that on most of these fields, we're starting from scratch. Now is the time to make it right. If it wasn't perfect, if it's not perfect, then now's the time to make it perfect. I know I have sat in those stands at Miller Stadium far too many times, and far more times than anybody sitting in here, I can tell you now. And it was never like that before. Now, for 80 years now, as Jeff said, maybe it was wrong. I don't know. But I'm just surprised that nobody caught it before now. In 80 years of minor league and high school baseball going on. But now's the time to fix it. Let's not accept half-ass is what I would say. Let's make sure that it's right and make sure it's perfect. If there's an opportunity to make it perfect, let's make it perfect. You know, where I come from, it wasn't a matter of, I can't do it. You tell me how you can do it, and then we're gonna decide if we wanna do it, if it's economically feasible or not. But don't tell me it can't be done, because it can be done. So that's where I'm at on this deal. I want it to be right, I want it to be perfect, I want my grandkids and everybody else to appreciate it, and the citizens of Crowley to appreciate the fields, and not go out there and everybody sitting there saying, wow, this thing is Annie Goblin, this thing is way off, what happened?
That's the problem. Y'all spend
Clint,
$5 million of our money.
I understand what you're saying, and that's why I'm saying I wish everyone would write their questions down and have them prepared for next Wednesday when Mr. Dawson is here, so that he can answer those questions. We can't right now.
Would it be possible, Stephen, for you to call a special meeting of the Recreation Committee, and we could all go out there, and we could look at everything, and we could write down our concern, or do you want just everybody to go out there individually and do it? But I'd be glad to do it either way.
I think it'd be best if everyone would just go out there, you know, when they can.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Steph?
with that being said, I disagree with you, because we have some people that may have knowledge, if I would've went out there, I wouldn't have noticed it.
Oh, yeah, you would.
No, but I'm just using the term, okay? I don't, in other words, and then Kim, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if Kim is familiar with baseball or not, or the building of the field. Now, I'm in the construction, I don't know how to build a baseball field. So if I go out there, everything looks good to me, but if somebody can direct, hey, this is what I was talking about right here. This is what the problem is right here, okay? So, I mean, why not go as, the committee? So that way.
Okay, are you talking about the recreation committee or the whole council?
No, the committee.
The committee?
Steve,
However you wanna do it.
can I make a suggestion, please?
Yes.
First of all, Mr. Dawson's gonna be here. Second of all, I invite anybody to come at any time they want. But please, call it a special committee meeting. I don't have time right now to entertain 9 different councilmen at 9 different times of the day or the week. I'm begging.
Thank you.
No,
I
you
want to say
can't
it
do
like
that.
that. You have other things to do.
Like Stephen said, I apologize, Stephen, like Stephen said, everybody individually go out there and go look at it, and we only talking about the recreation committee, and they wanna go look at it if they have questions. And if you don't know anything about baseball, about the baseball field, then maybe don't go. But if you still have a question, still ask the question.
Well, I'd like everyone to go out there if they want and write your questions down and have them prepared for Mr. Dawson next Wednesday. Yes, Clint?
So I'm retired, I probably have more time than Peter does to go do this. If anybody on the council would like to go out there and go look at everything, I would be glad to go with you and show you what my concerns are, and maybe you'll find something that I didn't see, and you'll have concerns also. But if anybody on the council wants to go out there and take a look at everything, I've walked it with Peter, and I'm pretty knowledgeable about what the concerns are, and I'd be glad to go with anybody, anytime you want to. I'll offer that.
Peter, you wanna continue?
Any more questions?
About this or something else?
Anything?
Right?
Recreation.
Okay, well, I mean, look.
As long as it's not COVID, I can't.
No, we're not going to COVID. All right, listen, all right. And I'm gonna have to address this because Mayor, during the Martin Luther King celebration, we planted a tree. Something was brought up. You had mentioned, and Peter, I'm gonna ask you this right here because basically, and I want the council to think about it for a second when it was brought up. Didn't this council approve the building of the restrooms at Martin Luther King Center? And the only thing that you was waiting on was another bid?
No, sir. The way I understood it, you wanted me to get prices to have restrooms built.
Right.
I can't just get prices, because I got 2 prices that came in from 2 different contractors.
Okay.
The problem with that was, I never had a set budget, first of all, to build the restrooms, and we never had a set of plans or drawings came up to where the contractors can bid on identical structure. So what I got was a price for one contractor's rendition, which was, price X, and then the next price that I got was price Y, and it looked nothing like, so it wasn't fair to the first contractor if the price was by half. So what I would suggest is we start with a budget.
Well, okay, now, hold that thought. And, Ms. Jones, I'm gonna ask that we do the archives of the minutes. And if anybody have any input on it, because this was what I remember. We talked about doing this to get a budget, to get an architect. At the time, we didn't feel, well, why an architect? We said, because this way we have the plans. That was never done, from what I'm understanding right now. Okay? And the reason why I'm saying it was never done, because at the MLK celebration, it was brought up that we tried to seek a grant to get this done. Listen, hey man, I told my constituents, we put well over $5 million in South Crowley. Okay? They at least deserve a damn restroom in West Crowley. And every time I would ask this man, when did you get the second? Now, we're finding out here, and if I'm wrong, Clayton, you were there. We're finding out right now that this man didn't get help. How can you get a damn bid on something if you ain't got the damn plan? by 30, restroom, well, I'm gonna design it like I want. And you know, I'm gonna design it where I get the most money to build it. Okay? So my bid might be $100,000, well, another guy come and say, you know what, I'm gonna draw it up where I get it, $900,999. Okay? So man, look, I'm very disappointed in this. Matter of fact, I was about to correct you, but one of the reasons why I didn't do it, because it was a sacred holiday. So I'm gonna ask this now in front of everybody here. I'm not on this committee. When will we get, because I'm tired of lying to my constituents. We got people out there, they do not deserve to be using the restroom in no goddamn portable, excuse me. Okay? We got a big building right there. They're inside the building, but they won't let nobody into the building because of the carpet. Okay? And I don't want you to go in, because you just said you don't know what's in your budget. If you tell me right now, Steph, I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and have the guys be there on weekends from whatever to whatever. Okay? But you don't know what it's going to cost you. You may know what it's going to cost you, but you don't know if you got it in your budget. Look, and man, look, I'm not faulting nobody here. But I'm asking from this point on. Man, look, be clear with me. Because I take what's told to me right here, and I'm telling it to my constituents. Okay? Byron, you know how many times they calling you on this. And every time when I tell you, hey, we just waiting on another bill. But listen, I'm hoping from this point on, everybody on recreation. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Let's get it done.
Okay, Mr. Martin, if I remember the last meeting, y'all were gonna give me the okay to pursue an architect, and that's what I wanna do.
We done that.
Okay, all right, so if we're done, now I pursued the architect, and now he's gonna draw up. He went over there, I'll be glad, as soon as he gets up a little set of plans, I'll be glad to get with you and Mr. Byron, and you look at the plans and make sure that you're satisfied with
Hey,
those
man,
plans.
just put, really, as long as it's a restroom, I mean, ain't too many things you can do to a restroom. Okay? All right, so, I mean, so many stalls, so many hand washing, and I'm fine with that.
All right.
But my colleague right here, maybe he have different approach. But to me, whatever you bring there is fine.
Okay,
Okay, I have no problem.
all right. very
Thank
good.
you. Thank you,
Yes,
Pete.
sir.
Yes, sir,
Appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Anything else for Peter? All right, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Nothing further?
Thank you, sir. Anything else in rec? Then I will recess.
Thank you, Mr. Primrose. Zoning and annexation, Mr.
That was
Primrose.
good.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Mayor's leaving us, Mr. Mayor's leaving us, so I guess he hasn't been preserved.
I can say I have nothing further on something.
I think in our packet, we have a preliminary plat, with what appears to be a favorable recommendation from the planning commission, for the re-subdivision of the, preliminary plat for re-subdivision from Christopher Mosso to subdivide a .89 acre tract being lot 4 of Limco subdivision number 1 into lots 4A and 4B of Limco subdivision number 1, City of Crowley, contingent upon, review by city attorney and city engineer. Do we have a motion for this?
I mean, but, we have a physical address on that? Physical address?
That's over on Odd Fellow Road, where that car wash is.
It's got
Oh,
one,
okay, oh,
it's
okay,
got
okay.
one step, but it, yeah, there's two buildings, it's just not reflecting it.
Okay, I got you. I know that now, is it car wash on our part? I got you.
Yes. We have a motion, do we have a second? Second, Jim? Any discussion on this?
Excuse me,
Stephen?
excuse me. Who moved? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear who moved.
I did.
He moved and Kim second.
Okay. Do you know the purpose of this law,
It's the first I'm hearing of it.
Mayor?
Subdivision. I don't know the purpose.
I would suspect that he's wanting to sell one of the pieces,
Yeah.
either the car wash or the building.
Well, the car wash has a for sale sign.
It does. And that would be,
And the buildings should fail too.
Oh, it is, okay.
because he can't sell one without the other, because it has to stay one lot.
Oh, I
And
see.
so what he's doing is creating the two lots.
Okay. But you can sell either one or the other of them.
If you subdivide it.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? All in favor?
All right.
All opposed, motion carries. Secondly, we have another letter from the Planning Commission with a favorable recommendation that Planning Commission has recommended the zoning change from C3 Commercial 3 to R3 Residential 3 for Harvest Trace subdivision located on Oddfellows Road. Yes, sir.
Why would they, if it's a C3, why would they need permission to go, you can go down, you just can't go up?
Would we going down?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, this is that new subdivision
That's what I'm saying.
being built.
But, I mean, I know this is crazy, but really, they don't read, they don't.
Second before discussion.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Make the motion, do we have a second? Second by Kim. Okay, Steph, what's your
No, I'm
question?
just asking, you know, what I mean, because they're going down.
Yeah, well, they don't want it to be commercial,
Right.
because somebody could put a business
But that's what I'm
in
saying.
that
But they have
subdivision.
it right, you know what I'm just saying? I mean, we do this all the time, and as an attorney, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't go from R to C, but they
No.
can go from C to R.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is courtesy, I like it, man.
Yes.
You know how many units they built now?
I heard about 90.
We got
Approximately
at
80,
least 100.
approximately 80.
80, well, they have room for 100, I done the scale on it, it's nice. That area, well, that would have been so nice to have all the RV park, I don't need that on. I'm just saying.
There's another piece presented. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. If there's nothing else to come before zoning and annexation, we will recess.
Next. Page, real good. Next is public safety, Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting. We have a quorum, and all members are present. And at this time, I'll call for any amendments to the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I wanted to, under discussion items, item number 2, if we can move that to an action item, I want to amend the agenda to reflect that. That's for hiring 4 additional police officers. I wanted to discuss it, of course, bring it up on public safety so that we can transfer it to Finance Committee. So I believe that needs to be an action item.
Okay, so we have a motion to move that discussion item to action item by Alder. A second by Steph Martin. Any discussion?
You have to have all 5. You have to have all,
Yes.
if you can amend the agenda, you have to have all 5 voted.
Okay, so I'll have a roll call vote.
And a description of you wanting to take this off of discussion and putting it as an action item?
Yes.
And then what's your reason?
To be able to send it to finance, to have,
You can-
4 more slots. in the police.
You can still, first of all, you can still send it to finance even in discussion. But you can't have an action item at the moment because you would have to vote on, amending the budget, and then you would have.
That's why we're sending it to finance.
Wait, why would she have to go to the budget?
If you, I think what he's trying to say is if you approve it, you've added 4. You've recommended the addition of 4.
Right.
Go to finance for review.
Right.
But you would have to you'd have to reconfigure the budget and the positions
Right.
to be able to recommend 4.
Right.
And amend an ordinance, that is correct.
Right. Yeah,
If that makes
yes,
sense.
that's what I'm gonna do.
But we haven't done the proper. It has to be discussed first.
First of all, you're trying to amend the agenda, you gotta have 5 votes to amend the agenda.
Right.
Of those people that
Before
are,
we get to discussion.
So, just call a roll call,
Roll call vote.
to those 5 people,
Right.
Or just hands or?
you have
Angie, you want
Mr. Brad Coy,
myself, Brad Court? Yes.
Mr. Myron Ruich, Mr. Bernard Martin, Mr. Tim Schuenfeld, Stephen Bruno.
No, I think we should keep it a discussion for now,
No.
and then we can go to action item later. But I do think that we should have discussion first. Because the budget would have to be amended,
But this, you gotta bring it to finance, Stephen, before it gets.
right? But you gotta also create the four new positions. I don't think, well, Kim, just like y'all have everyone has always said, we shouldn't vote on something until we discuss it and everything. I don't think that this should go straight to
But you
an
can't
action.
do it.
Wait,
You can't do that.
hold on, please, hold on.
You have to change it from one
Mr.
to the
Chairman,
other. Then you
Mr.
discuss.
All right, we voted, that was not a unanimous vote, so it's done, it's tabled, it's over with, now you have to move on.
It was to the discussion item. I have two action items to add to the agenda as follows. One, approve purchase of E4 software for the Crowley Police Department. And two, approve purchase of 5 computers for use within patrol cars. And I so move. Have a second?
And you're amending the agenda,
Yes, to add these as action items.
okay, for E4 software and what else?
And to purchase 5 in-car computers for the patrol cars.
Okay,
And those are,
again, okay, and the reasoning for that is to purchase E4 software,
yes, that's the first, action item.
all right?
Second would be the 5 computers for in-car use of control units.
All right, again,
Yeah, there's, well, we'll do
Amending-
it separately.
Amending one separately.
Okay,
We'll do the first one.
I move to amend the agenda to include, the purchase of E4 software for the Crowley Police Department.
And a second.
And it was seconded,
okay,
Now,
and now we have
and then I vote,
discussion, which we will get into. Well, we limited this to
What's
committee.
the difference between the first and the second?
right,
What's the difference?
Call for a roll call vote.
Oh,
No,
we're gonna do a roll call vote first?
No,
and then
for
we,
discussion.
Don't we vote?
Not just on the committee members.
Discussion on committee is open to the general council.
Oh, no, I
No,
got that
this
down
is,
before
this is
too.
on, this is on.
Okay. all right,
This is the kangaroo
look,
deal.
look, again,
Roll call vote.
again, this has to be, it has to affect the budget, right? Okay, roll call vote, Mr. Brad Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Byron Willard,
Yes.
Mr. Vernon Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Kim Stringfellow,
Yes.
Ms. Stephen Primo, Mr. Stephen Primo.
No?
No?
No.
Okay, no.
Motion fails.
Okay, next one,
The second would be to approve,
Point of order, point of order, point of order.
it's no longer for discussion, Mr. Martin.
No, I just have a point of order.
There's no point of order because there is no,
Grant committee.
You cannot control, this is a committee.
Mr. Chair is controlling it, he
That's
just said
right.
failed.
Unfortunately,
You shut it down.
we had one that has to be unanimous. Still.
We can go under unanimous consent.
But we'll have another opportunity.
We can go under unanimous consent, which is, and I wanna make sure I'm clear on this, hang on a second. Got it, okay. We can go under unanimous, and just, if we got 7, it's 3 plus 1.
No, sir, 5 in the committee.
This is committee, the 5.
You can still go under unanimous consent, okay? You, man, listen to me, if the Congress does it, how the hell a city of Crowley can't do it? Unanimous consent is very simple, okay? It's majority 1, okay? If you got 20, it's 10 plus 1. Because we get into a lot of crap here where things need to be taken care of. And you know, and I'll be honest with you, man, no, I don't know what I'm doing.
The whole purpose of this is to show that the Public Safety Committee, the majority of it, is in favor of these changes. However, I will go as required by the procedures.
You understand what's going on here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you don't understand what's going on here. This committee, by unanimous of consent,
But we don't have unanimous consent.
unanimous consent means, listen, man, you don't need everybody to say yes. Okay, unanimous consent is very simple. If there's 10 people, it's 5 plus 1. unanimous consent.
Majority.
Yeah.
No. Look, we had, I thought so too, now. But it was brought up to us that this body, as a legislative body, okay? Because apparently, guess what? We ain't gonna never get a damn thing done, because this one, every damn time we try and bring it up, he says no.
Well,
No, look, I'm tired of wasting my time with this bullshit. I'm out of here, man. I'll be going to the Attorney General, and I'm gonna find out, we're gonna have someone, we'll get a legislative authority in here to monitor these damn meetings. So this is ridiculous. We got public safety, we got police officers meeting calls, and they won't let it go to the full council?
hold on, Steph.
No, I'm not with this bull crap, man.
We have one more.
Go ahead.
To amend the agenda to approve purchase of 5 computers for in-car use, for the patrol units.
I'll second.
So seconded, Alderwoman Kim Stringfellow. Discussion? For those that are on the committee.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
You know, we,
okay, all we're
That's my
doing here
point.
is amending the agenda,
That's correct.
okay?
And it's his committee.
What, by me voting no does not mean that I am against this.
Well,
What it
I'm going.
means is that I think it should be on the agenda.
Well, what if
And that's
someone
why I
takes
was
things off our
amending
agenda?
the agenda to include, I was not.
I think
able
it
to-
should be discussion right now.
I think the whole council should discuss it, and we can't because we're not on this committee, and you're not
That's
letting it be
never-
forwarded to the full council. for
No,
discussion.
Clint, that's not true. We've always been able to discuss everything. It's only the committee members that can vote on it, but anyone can discuss it. It's always been that way. Anyone can discuss whatever comes up, but it's limited to the people on the committee to vote in committee. So anyone can discuss it.
But we were discussing
Say that
this to
now.
amend the agenda, period. That's what we were discussing. I was gonna get into the details had it been approved, but it has not been approved. So
But
let me-
it can still be discussed, Brad. It's the same thing.
I want to wait till it's in an action item to begin discussion. This is simply to move it to an, it's not on the agenda.
But if you move it to an action item, that means we have to vote on it tonight.
Right,
Is
Just
what
to
you're
move
doing.
it to
But
the-
you're only voting on it to move it to the
council.
full council.
just to move it to the full council. It's
Yeah.
not, this
Yeah.
is trying to get something
But-
moving forward. Again,
Okay, but none of us knew about any of this to begin with.
and I'm sorry that I was not able to meet the 12 o'clock deadline on Monday. to get
That's
the agenda
what
item.
I'm getting at.
And the first one that I wanted to change to an action item, we did know about it. It was originally as an action item, but it was changed to a discussion item.
But you might,
Oh, wait, I'm not on the committee, sorry.
So the first item that we discussed about, changing to have 4 officers added in 4 positions for the Crowley Police Department was originally, when I sent in my agenda items, it was an action item. I did not make it a discussion item, someone else did.
That's right, I did, because it has to be addressed, it has to be addressed through budget, and it has to be addressed through ordinance, and that is not properly done. So anyway, the thing right now, what you're voting on is to amend the agenda.
Right.
And Mr. Chair, the chair.
This, and again, the approval of 5 computers for use within the patrol car units, I wanted to add as an action item to the agenda. We've got a motion and a second, we've had discussion. Now, we want to have a vote.
No, this is the third.
Yes, this is the third one, because we were doing it individually.
What is the third?
it doesn't matter.
To approve the purchase of 5 computers for use within patrol cars.
In call computer.
Yes, in the
Okay,
Now, we were trying to amend the.
Now they need 4.
Brad, before the vote, this can still be discussed, and then it could be sent to finance. You could always amend it in finance, but I think there's got to be a lot of work done in finance before this should be voted on.
Right, and I want to move it out of public safety and let it go through the system of that. But I want to show that the Public Safety Committee has approved those items. That is,
So Stephen, whenever we have a discussion item, correct me if I'm wrong, when we have a discussion item in committee, does it move to next week to council?
It can,
It does not.
but it could be
It does
put,
not.
it could be put on
Ever.
next week's meeting.
It does not,
Discussion.
ever. If we have
It's a
discussion items,
Yes,
he,
no,
we
it's
do
not
not
an
get
action
to.
item, but it could be put on
That's
the
why we want
agenda.
them as just action items, Stephen, because when we have discussion items, they're not moved forward to next week. They're forgotten.
That's right.
We don't control next week's agenda.
No, you're correct about
And
that.
that's the whole purpose of trying to get something established so the public knows that this committee, especially with public safety and the police department, is moving forward. That's the whole purpose.
Then why can't it be discussed tonight and put on the agenda for next month's
Because we don't-
Because
committee meeting?
we don't have any power over next month.
Trustee Mike.
Next month's committee meeting. You can discuss it tonight and then make it an agenda item next month.
Sure, sure.
But it doesn't matter, you put it on the agenda and it's gonna be taken off anyway, made a discussion item.
Maybe we'll have some more conversations.
So,
Wait, other people have been able to speak.
on the committee.
Oh, yes, he just spoke.
I wasn't recognized.
Oh, well, okay, so
I was
I'll
out
just
of
speak
order.
without being
But
recognized.
Brad, he
I'll
can
just speak without being recognized. What happened to the committee, the meeting we had with you, the chief, the mayor, myself, and two other captains, going over these same items that y'all said y'all gonna come back to the table with before we bring it to the council and to discuss these very matters?
Nothing has happened.
That's right, nothing has happened. You want to jump over hoops because you didn't get immediately the satisfaction that you wanted at the meeting that you said, that we put together.
In 3 weeks, I have heard zero.
From what? From the police department, because y'all were supposed to come back,
We're talking about
the
discussing.
police department was supposed to come back with information to the table.
Please,
That's what was supposed to be done.
please yield.
I want the public to know exactly the truth, not what's being hidden.
There's nothing being hidden, that's why I'm bringing this forward. And having these meetings with nothing moving forward is, in my opinion, hiding what should be discussed here and acted upon.
So we didn't accomplish anything? We
Nothing's
didn't
been
accomplish
accomplished.
what you wanted.
Do we have, again, this is to amend the agenda. So, regarding 5 in-car computers for the police department's patrol units. We have to vote. Myself, in favor, yes.
Yes.
Byron, Mr. Martin's not here, Ms. Stringfellow, Mr. Primo,
No.
Okay, motion fails. We shall move on.
I'd like to ask a question, if I may, Senator, I'm not on the committee, but why every month we're coming to this council for more money, more money, more money with police department? They have $1 million budget. I've been on this council.
3.5 million.
3.5.
Excuse me, 3.5 million. I just don't understand, every month,
Well-
and you add up the salary for 4 more police officers and see what we're talking about.
We've been able to discuss those things that would all come.
Well, we can discuss it,
We
right?
discussed them in the meeting prior, and that was where things were being built, to be able to come to a consensus, a group to be able to come together to and present a collaborative effort to help the police department. You wanted to jump the gun, and now you realize, because you want to know what the cost was, and this isn't my figures, these aren't my figures. To add 4 new officers, to add 4 new officers, no, I'm gonna say what exactly.
I'm gonna ask you,
Want to read it?
No, I'm just asking,
Well-
I mean,
we are in the
it's gotta
middle.
be over $1 million or $500,000.
Thank you, so now the budget is $4 million.
So what are we doing?
We have a requirement to meet libraries, as to take, Sergeant Penn has explained to the council. I've been working closely with them. They have talked about the problems that the software has. That's a continual problem.
Well, what's line 5 gonna do for the
Well,
problems?
no, these are, that would be to allow, again, more discussion about something that.
I really should not.
I'll be happy
I'm
to.
sorry, I
Mr. Chair.
should ask you this.
Mr.
one
Chair.
time. I apologize. I apologize.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I was gonna disclose this to you as soon as I could. I just found out yesterday, that Hologics is now libraries, I'm not probably using the proper term, is cooperative now for libraries.
But it.
And I'll discuss that with you later
Right.
as well.
Yes. Chief?
All due respect to the mayor, I beg to differ because we even called the programmer with the program, they could not get the report. So as of now, we are not NIBRS or library certified. You speak about grants, hopefully this city doesn't want it because without NIBRS and library certification, you're not getting any grants for anything.
Mr. Chair, with all due respect to the chief, I spoke to Sheriff K.B. Gibson, and he said that they are libraries to the Hologics.
Also,
Mr.
Mayor,
Chair.
you're ready to change their software from.
Yes, sir, and I was just gonna
If
get with you
these,
and try to see if
I'm
we.
gonna move on with the agenda.
Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna debate these points. So we'll get back to reports, Chief, please.
Excuse me, if I would, just real quickly, I would still like to come to the table to go over these very items, because exactly what we're talking about now, could have saved a lot of people, we could have saved a lot of time here had we narrowed down exactly what needed to come before the council. You know, I have never denied Officer, or Captain Penn the opportunity to go to another software. I've only been concerned about having 3 of the same types of software. What would it take to get under a new contract and the transfer, what would it cost to transfer data from the one to the other? Those are basic questions that could have been answered on our next meeting. It was never developed. And that means the police department had to come with that information. That's just on that one item of 3 that you had. So that's why I think it was premature to try to make this an action item.
We've had Gibson PC come in as a third party, this
Yes, sir.
entity to determine the problems, and they have confirmed Hologic is a problem and the software needs to be replaced. Now we'll move on.
What would the cost to transfer data?
We're moving on, since it's not open discussion. Chief, the floor is yours.
February stats for the city council in the month of January, the Crowley Police Department responded to 768 calls for service, which included 1 homicide call, 10 attempted suicides, and 1 completed suicide. 45 thefts, 6 domestic abuse calls, and 12 thefts by shoplifting. 122 citations were written for 10 in the month of January, most of them being within the city limits. In addition, Crowley Police issued an additional 85 citations in the month of January, not related to 10. With regards to staffing, we are fully staffed in patrol and 1 position open in dispatch. We have a list of prospects for dispatch, which we are processing through. The issue we seem to face is with the psychological evaluations. The evaluations on those tested so far, 3 candidates have all come back with a high risk. Therefore, we are processing through the applications, attempting to find a suitable candidate. And also, Mr. Chair, if I may indulge you, I have 3 things to pass out. Oh, thank you, John. It's 3 to 7.
Good.
You got 4 sheets, Jim?
Sir?
Brad, you got some more of these?
Yes.
Got you.
What you have on
All right, this is what's, oh, excuse me, Mark.
this way?
Yeah, that's gotta go.
Three. Yes, sir. You need those. You should have with you an email correspondence regarding the vehicles being sought to purchase for the investigations division. Some confusion arose with regards to how to obtain the numbers for the past 3 years. However, the email you have from Mr. Reagan clears up the confusion by stating that the city clerk and the city auditor should be able to get these numbers, so we are waiting that.
You are also receiving copies of the TED numbers for the year, which was presented to Alderman Cavell this morning, and a copy of the fuel program for the city of Crowley instituted by Mayor Greg Jones. Now, with regards to those who had not filed for their city renewal permits, certified letters were sent from my office to those businesses not in compliance with their yearly renewal through the city. They were informed by order that they were not allowed to sell alcohol until this was resolved. You will note, with the exception of one, there was one that I just noticed on the renewals is not there, and we've not received it yet, and that would be Pizza Hut. But the other ones you will note are on the agenda today. And our investigations division has made 3 arrests and attempted homicides this year. One of those had 5 previous charges, and 5 additional charges were extended on the same suspect with regards to a different call of service.
Chief, you covered the, I'm sorry, I was handing up.
Oh, no, that's fine, sir.
All of so the total citations for the TED program is 3,496.
Yes, sir, since the beginning of the program. Well, not including the extras in June, July, and August of 2019. My apologies.
Do you have an estimate about what that would be?
There's about an 80% return on those, so,
As far as numbers, citations.
well, June 2019, we had 223, July we had 353, and August we had 305.
So that would be, okay, thank you. And the witness protection, subpoena fund, that has to maintain the $30,000.
Yes, sir, plus 12, so I believe it's 42.
Okay. And then the fuel policy, this is information that I've been trying to get, and apparently this is back in September of 2018 when this was issued under the Jones administration.
Yes, sir. Which we still follow today.
And how often are these prices checked?
I don't operate the program, sir, so I don't know.
Yeah, could you enlighten us on maybe that as far as, this is a 2018 policy that I guess you have adopted?
No, sir, I have not adopted, it's been adopted before my administration. It was a previous administration that the chief and the department agreed upon, and, as you can tell, there's 5 best prices that are done by the specific company, and these best prices that nobody else can match, and it's to save the city of Crowley money, and nobody else can match these prices, and have not, they were given that opportunity at that time.
Well, in 2018, but is that still, how do we know the
It's
prices
still,
are
it's
being
still
competitive?
available, it's still available, and I'll be glad to let you speak to the people who do. And it's still available today, they still give us the pennies about cost.
Oh, so that's what, but I don't have any information that was provided to me that shows what those costs are.
Okay, of course, with
That's the information I was
the
requesting.
cost of fuel, as you're asking, cost of fuel changes probably every week, right? Am I correct, gas
Sure,
will
but
change?
what I want to know is the margin above the cost.
It's pennies, and I can get the information for you.
So you do have something available that hasn't been provided to me upon my request.
I don't have it available right this minute, and I don't know if it was
Well,
available upon request, but we can try to get it for you.
Well, that's what I've been asking for in all the email correspondence. I just want to understand how the program works and what the prices are, because I know when an officer fills up at another facility, but the second best price, there was something about 20 cents more per gallon.
Yes, sir, there is a big difference, and.
Well, I don't know what that difference
Okay,
is.
well, I'll try to get it for you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not on the committee, but it almost sounds like this would be like what your materials list is for Clint's thing. Should you be doing this every 6 months?
Well, that's kind of what I was
Like
trying to find
materials
out
list
how
or
this
whatever.
is.
updated. Anything else, chief?
Thank you, Chair. Chief, do you know your balance on your budget at present?
I just received the October financials.
So, does that mean, no, is that no, or,
No,
oh, okay.
Any other questions for chief? Thank you, chief. I'm sure we'll have a question.
What was I'm kind of confused, because you kind of just brushed over, what was the purpose of the email regarding the, witness subpoena fund?
we had discussed about 2 vehicles for investigative division. One, then possibly 2 if there was enough funding, because by city ordinance, the witness subpoena fee, if not fully utilized, and I'm not quoting this verbatim, I'm doing as best as I can remember. If it is above this 42,000, 30,000 must by state law be kept in a 12,000 cushion. Above that, those funds by city ordinance could be used for the utilization of equipment, is what I understood.
And I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yes, sir.
Playing with funds like that can be funny, because although I understand you gotta leave 30, we have 12 budget, but what if you have to spend 15, you've already spent the remainder on cars?
Right, and that's why Mr. Reagan's email was stating that the city clerk and the city auditor needed to show the 3 years of expenditures to give us an average.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Mayor?
Yes, sir, and that's what we had discussed before, and, at the time, whenever I was discussing with the chief, that the $70,000 that was approximately in that balance of that particular line, and you had, within statute, you had to maintain a minimum of $30,000, and we had discussed this as well. And there's $12,000 that also has to be included in their budget, because that's what they're budgeted for the year. And my recommendation was to go back 3 years to see what you actually spent, to make sure that that $12,000 was correct in balancing that budget for that year. So that's where the 3 years comes from.
Okay, and what was your finding?
40, approximately, at that amount.
Keep quiet, okay.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay, Mayor, I appreciate that. That makes sense. All right, chief, we'll call you back up and.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we'll have, reports from, Fire Chief Romero. And I think he's provided us with a handout.
Good evening. I gave y'all January's report. We responded to 2 structure fires, 4 alarms, 10 EMS calls, 1 hazmat, 1 burning debris, grass fires, 5. No extrication, 1 vehicle accident, 8 public assist, for a total of 31 calls, for an average response for January 2021 of 3 minutes and 28 seconds. I spoke to a couple of y'all. I'm gonna be, just to let y'all know, I'm gonna be coming next month. Right now, in the budget, we was allocated $26,000 for truck repairs, and I'm down to about $3,300. And today, the last 3 days, we've been doing inspections and PMs on all the engines. And I have a list of things that's wrong with the trucks. Rescue 15, he showed me today, I got the piece of metal. When he took all out of Rescue 15, they had chunks of metal in all. So, I don't know where that's coming from, but we're gonna need some more money for truck repairs, because it's gonna be working up a price on fixing all the stuff that they found out was wrong with all the trucks. So, I just wanna put down on your radar. Other than that, have y'all got any questions for us?
how do you know you only have 4,200 left in that one account?
Mr. Cavell, can you repeat that?
How do you know you only have 4,200 left in your budget for that one account?
Because I personally keep track of all my POs, and I can tell you to the penny in each line item that I control. I can't tell you how much is in wages and how much is in, retirement and that budget item. I don't control that. But stuff that we write POs for, I've got a program that I made up that I can tell you to the penny how much is in there.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, how is the, housing area going for y'all? Are y'all still able to stay there? The fire marshal is okay with y'all staying?
I've got, Mayor Matzo sent me Monday or Tuesday, I don't remember what day. One day this week, an email that he got from, Corporal Tommy Board stating that plans for Central Fire Station were sent to the Fire Marshal's office. We are waiting approval on the renovations, and that the city decided to renovate Central Station and not worry about 560 North Avenue F. And that's in Corporal Tommy Board's report.
Those plans were prepared by an architect.
I think so, sir.
Chief?
Thank y'all.
And next we'll move to code enforcement, City Inspector Tony Duhan, who isn't present, but I do have an email that was provided to me by the mayor. Attached for review, and which there were no attachments, but I'll continue to read. Quantity, 108 permits. Of those 34 building permits. Quantity, 28 code enforcement violations. Of those 13 uninhabitable structures. Quantity 38 follow-up cases and 10 building applications to review, along with quantity 137 phone calls. Still having approximately 20 prioritized uninhabitable structures in due process. Contact us if any further information is needed. Respectfully, Tony. That will complete his report. Can't entertain any questions because he's not here.
Did he tell you why he didn't go?
He did contact me. Under beer and liquor licenses, we have following renewals for beer and liquor permits. Dollar General Store number 04187, 2019 North Parkinson Avenue for a Class B packaged beer permit and Class B packaged liquor permit. Dollar General Store 16248, located 910 North Parkinson Avenue for a 2021 Class B packaged beer permit, 2021 Class B packaged liquor permit. Third is Big Daddy 2020 Incorporated DBA Cajun Mark, 109 Southeastern Avenue for a 2021 Class B packaged beer permit and a 2021 Class B packaged liquor permit. Fourth, Big Daddy 2020 Incorporated DBA Winter Circle Deli, located at 815 East Hargrave for a 2021 Class A retail beer permit and a 2021 Class A retail beer, liquor permit. And I believe, Chief, you have reviewed these.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, as I spoke to the committee earlier, I got a report from the city inspector's office, at which time certified letters with return receipts were sent to these businesses, advising them that they were delinquent in their city alcohol permit, and by order of the chief of police, they were not allowed to sell alcohol in the city of Crowley until that was rectified. And so
to come before you today. As I said, there's only one out of those that I did not receive back, or the city did not receive back, and that's Pizza Hut.
Right, probably because they only have carryout.
Right.
And I'll move that, please go to the full committee for, approval. Second, discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Action items, we have done discussion items, at the request of Alderman Jeff DeVille, Ms. Mary Augustine is here to address the committee. However, I don't think Mrs. Augustine, is here. I know that she did meet with, myself and the chief of police and other members, of the public safety committee individually, and I think all of her, concerns have been addressed. Next, at the request. Steve?
Okay, on public safety committee, and I don't know anything about this.
Right, she was, she contacted, Alderman Cavell, I think initially, and Alderman Stringfellow, and, she had some current concerns about, DSH After Hours Club, located next to her property, and she mentioned, 6 items. A super spreader of COVID-19, because of the, groupings of people at that location. She was saying that the patrons block her tenancy into her driveways, because she owns rental property in that proximity. Excessive liquor bottles and trash, which I think the owner of the business has attempted, during those events to clean up, but he may have had a few times, she said that, he hadn't. Parking along the shoulder of US 90, was causing problems with 18-wheelers would come by, and the patrons of the club were parking on both sides of the shoulder. It was causing a safety hazard, and, she was talking about also public urination on property in public, and liability of patrons walking onto her property, she was concerned about. And Chief, you could certainly fill in, you were there for the.
Yes, she brought her concerns both to Alderman Core, myself, Sergeant Jerry Braun, who's in charge of that particular detail. And of course, we sat and listened to her and visited with her about it. Officers are hired by Mr. Domino, Mr. Markel, for the outside. They make sure that the patrons do not remain outside, just gathering and assembling. They give them about 10, 15 minutes to make their way into the club, and if there's any issues outside, they handle it. Mr. Markel has his own security inside, which we explained to her. Unless there is something that happens inside, we don't go inside because there is security there. As far as the bottles, they're not supposed to be bringing alcohol. Mr. Markel does sell like sodas and I think orange juice and things like this. Most of the people come with styrofoam cups, so unless, like Sergeant Braun explained to her, it's a juvenile and, there's a smell of alcohol, we don't have the right by law to go search that cup and say, hey, what you drinking? So we kind of just talked with her about that. I know that as of February 1st, she had leased out the property to someone else. And the property we're speaking of is immediately west of DHS, right across Avenue D, I believe, but don't quote me on that. Or B, I'm sorry. Right across Avenue B, I think at one time it was a hair salon or something like that. She has leased it to someone now. They are going to be taking their own measures as far as, how they're gonna handle that. I know that at one time she was charging to park there, which, she has every right to, it's her private parking lot. I'm not sure if the new owners will do the same thing or what. But the officers have many times instructed people to park further down to avoid that situation.
Steve, that's answered your question.
No, thank you for the information.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add that, we came up with the idea of having a street sweeper go by on Monday mornings because we can control what's left in the street, and I think the owners are trying to pick up, what's left in their parking lot. So I did talk with Mr. Albert John, and he's gonna do that, so, and I'll be in contact with Ms. Mary regarding that as well.
I just want to say, the other concern she had was that often she says she's been out there 3, 4 in the morning. Yes, there's 2 officers there, mainly just sitting in their vehicle or talking side by side while people are walking around with open containers. The aroma of marijuana is very prevalent. And again, they're sitting around in their cars. And, the perception is, yeah, they may be on off-duty detail, but they're in the city uniform, in the city vehicle, while this is going on. So that's not a concern. The concern I also have is that, particularly considering and knowing what your present situation is as far as your liability insurance and your workers' comp insurance, what are we setting ourselves up for future increases in premiums? If something, while supposedly off-duty happens, who is liable? I can guarantee now it's going to be the deep pocket and those who they're showed to be represented. And that's going to be who's in the vehicle they're in and the uniform they're wearing. And not to mention, we are accepting what we don't enforce. So if we accept that, well, yeah, I don't know if there's a juvenile. How do they know if there's a juvenile? Unless they ask them. How do you know what's in that cup unless they ask them? How do they know what they're smoking unless they ask them? And they can't do that while sitting in their vehicle. It's a detail, I understand, and they're off duty, but they are getting paid. And I'd like to ask, too, is it worth the liability to the city? So, and then it's extra money. I don't want to deprive extra money to those who are able to make it.
And that's basically it, is extra money. And just to answer your question, some of your questions, Councilman, that's one of the reasons we had Sergeant Braun there since he was in charge of the detail, to hear her concerns. Now, as far as the marijuana smoking, she even told us in the meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman who were there, it's inside the building. And again, we have, unless we're smelling it outside to give us, but we did, we can't just walk into the building and say, okay, everybody's busted, It is a private club. There's a fee. So now, as far as the drinking, again, from what we were told from Sergeant Braun, most of the people were coming with styrofoam cups. Again, I understand, how do you tell if they're a juvenile? Most of our juveniles we know today because they've been in the system for quite a while, especially those who would attend a place like that. And again, we may miss a few, but if it's someone that we believe is 21, we have no right, I have no right to go up to Alderman Court and say, what do you have in that water bottle, But we did say to be more vigilant in their watching, more vigilant of the people outside. And as Sergeant Braun was telling Ms. Augustine, they give them about 10 or 15 minutes because, again, most of the people coming are not from Crowley. Most of them are coming from other vicinities. I will say that security has helped because there really has not been any issues as far as, we had one that I can remember shooting in the 4 years that I know they've been doing it. Other than that, they really have not had issues with fights or anything like that. And I think it's because of the efforts of both the officers outside and the security team inside. As far as liability, I do understand your concern because they are off duty. We did have an incident like that with another facility where actually, Mr. Reagan, I think, correct me if I'm wrong there, but, Mr. Reagan took care of it. I'll say it that way. So, I do understand the concern.
Yes, under litigation, so it's.
Correct, I apologize, I forgot.
You're not obligated for discussion.
Yeah.
They said they did.
What's that?
Occupational license?
Yes, they do have an occupational license. They are up to date on all of them. They do not have an alcohol permit because they do not serve alcohol or sell it, but they do do have an occupational license.
And they still open after, 2 P.M.?
They do, they open after 2 a.m.
I'm getting, you know, I had a birthday, and I know I'm getting older, but they had these after-hour places when I was growing up, and although they may not be serving it, it was very prevalent inside, and any family else in there. And you know what we were always very afraid of? The sheriff raiding the place, because it was outside. So you always, you know, although there's, you know, you have suspicion, and you admit yourself, it's coming from inside. Well, how do you know it's coming from inside? You're smelling it outside. That's all you need to know.
Well, and I just quoted Ms. Augustine.
I understand, but that's what you need to know, and if that's the case, that's the reason you need, that's all the reason you need. And
I
I'll tell you,
understand what you're saying,
I'll tell you
sir.
that important, because I don't want the inside of Crowley, you know, they wanna go do that in a boondock somewhere, that's fine, but not in my city. I think you've had issues too with your own office being run into a couple times because of patrons of places like that. So I think it's something we really need to, you know, look into deeply in how we enforce those types of after, quote unquote, after hour places.
And I'll tell you, that's the only one that we have in our city. And, I mean, this council has the legislative power to, you know, choose what it wants to on that. You know, again, I understand what you're saying about smoking marijuana, but just like if I pass by somebody's house, you know, if I would pass by, you know, Alderman Court's house, and he and his wife decide to smoke a little joint while they're in their house and have the door open, I can't just walk into their house either. You know, just making that, you know, observation. All due respect, Mr. Gordon.
I've noticed that too, Jim.
So in the city of Crowley, although alcohol can't be sold after 2, can it be consumed at these non-private locations?
This is a private club. It's not a non-private.
But it's open to the public. I guess that's what I'm curious.
If you pay to get in, that makes a difference. There is an entry fee. So that's what distinguishes it in that manner. Yes, what was it, Alderwoman?
$10 for women, 20 for men.
Yes.
Sounds like my car.
All right, Chief, any other questions? Chief, I'm sorry. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
You may be released. Next we'll go to, item 2 under discussion items, request of Alderwoman Stringfellow to discuss the hiring of 4 additional police officers for the Crowley Police Department.
Yes, thank you. After discussing it with the mayor, I wanted to, I realized it has to go to the finance committee, and we have to appropriate, even see if we have the funding. And we also have to add 4 additional slots, and I understand that. But, you know, we've had so many homicides. Our town, we have a crime problem. If you Google Crowley and crime, just do that tonight when you go home and see if this doesn't warrant an action item on the agenda. And since it's a discussion item, if anyone else wants to discuss, you know, but I really think we need to look closely at our crime in Crowley. We need to be proactive because we have a lot of serious issues.
And I'd like to add to that, you know, we are looking in the near future of 2,500 to 3,000 visitors to our community every weekend. And, you know, that is vital to keep those people coming back. We don't need bad things happening, you know, and being understaffed to handle it. Because I can tell you now, the staff that we have can't keep up with the crimes that are being committed now. So I just wanted to add that. Mayor, you have something?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to let everybody know also that we were proactive, and yourself as Chair of Public Safety, Mr. Cavell as Chair of Finance, the Chief, Captain Troy there, and Captain Chris Osborne, we had a meeting, and we were very proactive. We were in favor. You know, it was a very good meeting. We talked about those police officers, we talked about other things. And I thought it was a very good meeting in trying to get something done, be able to help. police.
I agree, Mayor, it was
Yes.
an excellent meeting, I hope that continues. We
Yes.
just need to, I think it's rather urgent to move forward at this time, faster than, we normally do things. Which is my total concern. Again, those items are not put on agenda because I just didn't get there in time at 12 on Monday to get them in, but I want to keep, the thought going and certainly everyone's input.
And
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I realize there's been a lot of little meetings, but that was the whole purpose, I think, of what y'all were trying to do earlier, was trying to move it to the full council so that we could discuss it with the full council and actually do something and take an action on it. Now, these little meetings are great, but if nothing gets done, then they're useless, because guess what? We're still having murders, we're still having these gangs, we're still having all these problems in Crowley, and Brad, I agree with you 100%. We have all these people coming to Crowley, and we already have a black eye. We need to be proactive. We're not gonna be proactive by having these little one-off meetings and not getting anything done. It needs to be brought before the council, and we need to come up with a solution. And if it's gonna cost more money, then it's gonna cost more money, but we have to figure out a way to stop this stuff. If it's a street crimes unit, like been discussed, I've been on some of those meetings, I know. But guess what? We have the meeting and then boom, it goes away. And there's another meeting out here and boom, it goes away. And we never get to take any action on it. And that's the whole purpose, I think, of what we're trying to do, is if you bring it in front of the full council and we can take action on it. And look, if people are against it and they're fine with the crime rate the way it is and they don't want to do anything about it, then that's gonna be the majority of this council. But we represent the people of Crowley, and I think the majority of the people of Crowley want something done, and we need to do something. And sitting on our hands and thinking that the problem is gonna go away, it's only gonna get worse. So if we put pressure on these people and we tell them, you wanna do your drugs, you wanna deal, you wanna shoot, you wanna do all this crazy stuff, go somewhere else and do it, because we're gonna put heat on you. We're gonna put pressure on you. We're gonna be proactive in Crowley, not reactive, and get something done. But all these little meetings are not gonna do anything until we have an action and we take action.
Mr. Chair, I must counter, I disagree. They're not little bitty meetings, we were waiting on numbers to come back. This meeting was just held a week ago, and you know that, and we were waiting on numbers, and you know that as well. And we have not gotten these numbers back, and just to give you an average of what it would cost the city is almost $400,000 extra a year. So, all right, so I just want to let you know that we are being proactive.
But there are also many things other than just looking at
Yes, sir.
what's in the budgets. There are things that can be done for consolidation. There's many things the city can do.
Many things.
Because once we lose this recreation opportunity because of crime, it's all over, okay? And we're all gonna be blamed for it. So this needs to be a team effort, okay? Yeah.
All right, I like the meetings, because I think it was very proactive. It actually was able, because we're able to speak freely. That's what little meetings like that allows you to do. The protocol is kind of out, it leaves at the door, you're able to speak freely to people. And yes, there were certain things, data that was supposed to come back, and it was actually in the ballpark of the police department to come with that data. As soon as that data is there, you're ready, let's meet again. When we're able to have a consensus, then we can present it, and then we have what could be an action item. So that's what's good about those meetings. I also want to let you pay attention, because I have been paying attention to this. In fact, in 2019, our crime index was a 3.7. That means 96.3% of the nation, one of the worst places in the nation, okay? Now, this seemed to start in December when we had 2 homicides, and 2 weeks later had another, and a week later 4 more shootings. This started back because in 2018, our crime index was at 836. 2017, 665. 2016, 423, okay? Just as a comparison, since we like comparisons, let's use Jennings. Jennings crime index, a 125. Rain, crime index, 41.3. I mean, ours is a 3, theirs is a 40. Okay? We're actually worse in Chicago, Illinois. 1 in 80 people in Crowley are gonna be subject to a violent crime. That's not handled by more people. We have more people, or as many people on staff now with less population than when the previous administration was in office. Okay? That's fact. Okay? 4 new people. And when I asked, what are those 4 new people gonna do? We're gonna start a street crimes unit. My first question was what, chief? You don't remember? My first question was, wait, I remember the article about 8 months prior, Desiree wrote it, I believe it was, and how we had this special street crimes unit coming to the city. Everybody's, they're gonna do all this good. What happened? What was the answer? What fizzled out? We had people on sick leave, we couldn't do it. I didn't get an article about it. Well, it's no longer in existence, but now we need 4 new people. And again, at $400,000. That puts our budget for the police at nearly $4 million. There's some municipalities' budget isn't that much. The city of Rain is not even $2 million. Okay? And their crime index is to the nth time greater than ours in the plus, safer. So I think we really need, that's why I like to be in the discussion item, because I do believe that the little meetings we were having need to take place a little bit more before we bring it here. Otherwise, we will jump to conclusions. Because we all know, once you add to a budget, it's really hard to take off. Once you add to the number of personnel, it's really hard to take off, particularly in public safety. And that's why I think it was very premature to even try to circumvent what we had started in good faith to work in our meetings to bring it to, particularly as an action item.
I didn't know anything about those meetings.
Well, that's my point.
I had no idea.
You were put
Yeah.
up, and how come you needed 4 people? How do you know about 4 people?
Well,
See, you
Chief
were
and I
being
discussed.
circumvented,
Chief and I
because you were utilized for something they wanted, without having to go through what we'd already established.
This is no circumvention, there is a shortage, I see it, I've been out there, I don't know how many times you've ridden in the patrol car.
I don't need to stick my finger in an electric socket to know I'm gonna electrocute.
And I don't have to send my
Several-
3-year-old grandson to your office and do your job either, I mean, that's not the same analogy.
You don't need to do what?
So my 3-year-old son can go to your office and do your accounting, is that basically what you're saying? You don't have to have any knowledge of
No,
something.
what
you
I'm
don't
saying
know
is
about.
that, no, you did.
I'm out.
You
there.
established, you wanted to do what you do, so why do it if you can't handle it? Okay? This is Mr. Willard said, what, 2 years ago? When an officer came up here and said, wait, no one forced you to sign up. That was actually your words.
Well, sure.
Okay?
Sure. Well, we.
Chief, who forced you to run for chief?
No one.
No one,
I understand that.
okay?
But you know.
What I'm establishing now is not that we don't have we definitely have a problem. But before we start adding to it, could be a bigger problem that we can't go back on, you need to talk it out a little bit more.
Well, and one thing I don't think that you look in your study too, if you look at the number of uninhabitable dwellings in these communities compared to Crowley, you will find that that has a significant amount to do with the level of crime. Do some research on that.
And what is the police doing as far as enforcing that? Because they can enforce that too.
Well, we're on street inspection.
Well, we have a.
Police can enforce that. In fact, you have 2 city inspectors to enforce as many ordinances in the civil side as you do police officers. But yet you got 40-something on the staff of police officer, but 2 on
We don't have enough.
And you
police
expect-
officers.
Not, because they're not here.
We don't have enough.
You do
police
know how many you
officers
have,
To take care of.
and you had to report from it. So you're asking 2 people to do the work of what a staff of 40 people have. That's not fair. And they have every opportunity to do the same type of enforcement. I'm just saying, before we start really dumping into
What I
something.
wanted to discuss too, since you brought the numbers up with the dollars, do you know what it costs per call for the police department to attend to a call? Do you know what it costs per
No,
call?
I didn't know.
On average, about $326 per call in 2020.
Okay.
For comparison, you know what it costs the fire department per call?
What does the fire department have to do with this?
I'm just doing numbers, it's not different, public safety.
Okay.
Things that we have in resources and money. And I've taken just a guess with the fire department, and fire department.
I don't, I mean, I'd have to look. I'm
And
sure you
another
would say
question
it's
I
less.
ask for you, do we have a crime problem or a fire problem?
I think we have an enforcement problem.
Well, again, I do too. We have code enforcement, and I can tell you that the number of calls
And
from the
again,
police department.
code enforcement, police department is not, can do code enforcement too.
But again, they are understaffed to handle the crime issues that they have now. Is what you're not understanding.
You just heard that we're allowing an all-night, facility where officers sitting outside that you even agreed to is subject to, liability.
They're not
and,
on duty.
huh?
They're not on duty. That's all their off time.
No,
They're not being.
and get on a uniform in your own personal vehicle.
But they're at that
Okay.
location, they're not there.
If you see,
And this is, the chief.
if a person is on off duty, in uniform, and not even have to be in uniform, and they see an accident on the side of the road, are you obligated to stop?
Chief, that's,
That's right, I know, I read your policy.
my policy for the chief's policy.
Well, y'all's policy.
But that's not mine, because we're,
Well, the policy you have to follow.
you know,
So yes. So whether he's on duty, off duty, is irrelevant. He's in uniform, she's in uniform, they're in a police vehicle. If they see an action, illegal activity going on, yes, they are obligated to enforce it. If nothing else, call it in. Again, this is something that you complained about because your own office was run into 2 or 3 times.
absolutely.
I'm sorry, it's not my point.
And again, we have a problem with not enough police force, is my answer. And I'm looking for solutions here, not finger pointing. I'm looking for answers to, again, we have a major recreation project coming up that needs to have enough law enforcement available to handle that. I'm sorry.
Hey guys, okay, so I have 2 questions and I don't know if y'all can answer them right now. The first one is with 2,500 people coming in expecting per month. I mean, that's like, per weekend, I'm sorry, that's like 1/5 of our town's population. So I don't even know if 4 officers are enough to work that whole parking lot and all of that. That's just my opinion. And then the second one is, if an officer starts off at $22,000 a year, how does it cost the city $400,000 for 4 seats? I'm just kind of wondering that too, and that might need to be answered later. I'm just kind of wondering, where does the additional $75,000 come in? And I know you have to pay some health insurance and those kinds of things, but that just seems like a lot more than it would seem like it would cost. So, I mean, even if we doubled their salary, it would still be $200,000, so I was just kind of wondering.
I use figures that they supply to us in our little meeting.
Okay, I don't know where the numbers are, I just know what the starting salary is, so just in my mind, I was like, okay.
No, first of all, your idea of starting salary being 2021 is
Okay,
wrong.
we did ours today enough, let's move
How
on,
much is
man.
the starting salary for
It
an
doesn't
officer?
make any sense.
Starting pay 23,940.22 after 3 months, 29,940.02. Fringe benefits 14,790.36. Insurance 8,400. Garcia, which is 104 hours annually, 27.85 for a total annual cost per officer $55,915.50. Adding 4 officers, that's about $250,000. Then you add uniform at $1,800, portable radio $1,800, training another $1,000. First year total cost times 4 of those officers, $60,550. Then of course they want each one to have a unit at $28,000 apiece. So you add all that up and you get right about $500,000.
I didn't realize that included cars and.
So
all
yes,
those
to
things.
add 1 person, you're looking at about $90,000.
For the first year. Okay. Just wondering.
Yeah, it's no doubt, it's expensive. Chief?
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Since we're in discussion, my question, sorry. Since we are in discussion, did y'all, were y'all gonna tell us where we were gonna get the money to add these 4 officers? Was there a plan in place for that?
Certainly that was gonna be part of consideration before we brought it to, council for implementation.
Okay, well, we're in discussion,
But
so
as far as the dollars, know, we're looking at certainly, by increasing the officers, you will have more fine revenue. That's part of police enforcement is fines, whether it be from TED, traffic citations in town. So that will increase tremendously from what I understand, because they will have officers available to do traffic on a routine basis, and not sporadic like it has to be now because of the number of calls. And Chief, don't let me speak for you.
No, that's fine.
These are my observations. Secondly, we have revenue coming in from all the tax revenue associated with the recreation facility, all the people. So we're gonna have increased tax revenues. There's a lot of revenue sources available. You know, there could be consolidation within departments here in the city, you know, to make things run more efficiently. Again, that's up to the mayor, you know, we don't have any privy on that, but I would encourage anything we can do to look into this thing.
Well, and I agree completely. I guess what I was getting at is we didn't have, that's things that would all have to fall in place. Because it will be a recurring expense once we are.
Absolutely.
It's every year.
Recurring with the increase.
With the exception of the one-time uniform training.
Right.
And then the Garcia payment, that's from the state. So
Right.
that's a pass-through to the city.
That's right.
That doesn't cost the taxpayer.
I would just like to do this if I possibly can. And it's just food for thought for everyone sitting here. I'd like to just give what, just an example. Okay, we have this beautiful complex we're building to bring in all of these visiting teams. We're gonna have a fourth or fifth of our population in visitors every weekend. So hypothetically, Mr. Boudreaux from Youngsville is a retired attorney. He and his wife decide the grandson is playing in one of these select tournaments at this new facility in Crowley, and they have that wonderful RV park that they just built that has all of these wonderful amenities. So, sweetheart, let's take the $300,000 Winnebago down to Crowley and we'll watch the grandson play and we can stay at the RV park. Mr. Boudreaux's not gonna go around the court circle because it's difficult to maneuver. So he's going to ask things like Google or Google Maps, what is the quickest route to this RV park? And it will take him down Northern Avenue to Western, and then Western across the tracks, which is all well and good until the first time Mr. Boudreaux goes down a particular area and hears pow, 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 and then you can shut that facility down because no one's gonna wanna come again. And that's all I'd like to just leave as food for thought to this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Any other discussion? I would like to add to that because, in that scenario, I can't tell you how many countless times I've asked for patrol down West Northern Freeway or Expressway or Speedway, okay? And yet I've had none. Neighbors are calling me actually. I'll also say that, as I showed through the statistics, any crime in areas, they actually break it down to the area. It's nothing new. So if you're hearing pop, 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 and we all know or have it understood where it's coming from, again, it's not a money problem, it's not a manpower problem as much as it is an enforcement power problem. And that's throughout the years, not immediate. I agree. We have to protect our investment. That's why one of the things I've actually mentioned is a potential substation there, right there on the grounds of the recreation department with a constant presence. But before we add any more people, and that's a lot less cheaper than adding with a skid shack or something of that nature, than you would with adding more people, that is a recurring cost. So.
Any other discussion, questions? And, I'll see.
Brad,
I'm sorry.
if this cannot be added to the agenda next week, I would like to see it put on committee for the next month. But I also would like for us to have the information beforehand, whatever information it is, as to how we're gonna do this. Because from what I'm hearing here is that we're looking at over $500,000 that we would have to appropriate to do this. Of all the things that you wanted to amend the agenda for tonight. So,
Sure, again, whatever we can do to get the ball rolling, that's what.
And I'm absolutely, I never voted against, you know, public safety.
You know?
What, I had no idea this was coming, and you're asking for over $500,000 in appropriation, and I look at the balance that's in the general fund, and I'm saying, we can't do that. How are we gonna do that?
Well, the same way that we're gonna pay for the recreation facilities, $500,000 expense every year, we have projected increased revenue.
A business plan.
We have a business plan,
But there we have revenue coming in from the recreation department.
which is also a burden on public safety.
Oh, I agree,
Our
but,
department and police department.
yes, I agree with that, but all I'm saying is let's show how we're gonna be able to pay for this.
That's
And-
why I wanted it to go to.
Well,
Sure.
but Kim, all that can be discussed. It can be discussed right now, all of that.
Okay, with all due respect, my concern was that when we do have discussion items and we talk about them in committee, they die. And we don't get to, you know, have an action on it. That's my only reason. You know, I didn't have all the facts, you're correct. But, you know, if we just continue, like, next week, is it gonna be on the agenda?
Well, I
No,
don't know
because
that,
it's not an action.
But it could be put on the agenda, but if it's not, it can go to committee next month. But,
But again, if it goes to committee next month, how do we get it as an action item
Well-
from a discussion item?
well, you can put it on the agenda next month as an action item.
Okay, we just said discussion.
No, tonight, it was as a discussion item.
Four items, right?
Right.
Mr. Chair, and by doing that, and I agree with Stephen and you, but it'll give you time to be able to compile all the information necessary at that point.
Any other discussion? Any other legal items to come before the committee? And I will recess.
Thank you. Thank you for, next public building.
Close the business convene in the council chamber on the item number 1, Wells Fargo Press Railway Building, Reginald Richard, representing one party, to address committee requesting use of the Wells Fargo building. I think he said the president now.
Yeah, I'm Reginald Richo, I'm the chairperson for One Crowley. I'm here to discuss the use of the property at 10 North Parkson, or otherwise known as the Wells Fargo building. We normally use it for our farmers market, which has quickly become our biggest, event. Through that event, we've been able to do some good things in the town. We've been able to donate some ceramic style heaters to some people in the town that didn't have any heat whatsoever in their homes. In addition to that, we've made some donations to like ASEA's for dog food and supplies. We were able to donate to a young girl's funeral last month, or 2 months ago actually. In addition to the events that we're able to put on for children, that's free of charge. With y'all's approval, we're looking to start February 27th, and then it'll continue every other weekend as is available. Actually, my vice chairperson, Katie Alamo, was here, but she had to leave. She chairs that, so she has all of the dates. I think she's got with the mayor already. There's a couple of conflicts, but it's not something that we can't work around. Also, with that schedule, it does put us around the Rice Festival, because obviously, if we do have the Rice Festival, we won't be able to use it that week. So we've already planned for that also. But yeah, looking forward to working with y'all again this year. It'll go, I think she said till December 18th is when we're planning, to try and do like our end of the year Christmas event. But we're looking forward to it.
Santa coming back?
Yes, sir, he's available.
Just,
Do you have to, as far as the use of the building, so your dates, can we set those so you don't have to keep coming back to the council, or?
Yeah, and she has that, like I said, she's done with the mayor, I think yesterday or something, so they can kind of go over it real quick. I was hoping she was here earlier, but she had another engagement she had to go to. So she has all of that. We can get that to y'all if y'all need us to. That way everybody's kind of on the same page of, about when we're gonna be using it.
One of my concerns is, first of all, I think you know, farm market's a good idea and that, but my concern is the availability, to the general public with setting dates every other week, so far in advance, not allowing for others to potentially utilize the facility. It's just, again, it's just a concern, not a yay, nay either way, but something I think may be, come into play. So when you say, instead of coming back so often, I think coming back more often is what should be required in case somebody would like to utilize that property for something else. Oh, can't, what about the week after that? No, it's been empty, oh, but nope, and so, and I was first come, first serve, but having first come, first serve in a year in advance is for every other week, I think is a little much to ask.
Yeah, I think what you're asking maybe is, what do we normally rent the building for? You know, Mayor? And I guess,
Has it been done?
well, has it been rented? Yeah, first of all, and are we losing any money?
You,
Because the
at the moment, you can't because of COVID.
rent the building? Well, what I'm asking is if we normally rent the building, if they have it every other weekend, the city would potentially be possibly losing money. I'm not sure if, I don't know what it normally rents for.
$200. Yes, but this is a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, right, I understand.
Another question?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr.
And for $200, I would say, if that's all we're losing out on, money-wise, it's a great thing. I've been there several times. I know the guy that played Santa Claus last year even. And look, it's well worth Crowley doing this, especially for $200 if we might lose or whatever. It's a great thing, and we need it in Crowley. It's grown, it's getting bigger and bigger. We get more people to come in, and guess what? When those people in those RVs are gonna be going around, and they see that, they're gonna be stopping, they're gonna be shopping, and, I think it's only gonna grow bigger and bigger and bigger, so, I'm all for it.
If the building can't be rented because of COVID, but a nonprofit can use it, so another nonprofit can come use it and not pay to rent it? What do you mean that it can't be rented because of COVID, but you're allowing them to rent it? Or to utilize it?
The building itself cannot be rented because of COVID, and I've already had a talk with him about that. And they can use the outside all they want.
But not the inside.
That's correct. And they'll have to control, they'll be responsible for controlling their own crowd outside, but they won't be able to utilize for themselves the bathroom there. But they won't be able to, they won't be able to utilize the inside. Not at the moment until we get out of this particular restriction from the government.
Okay, that makes a little more sense to me, because I just didn't quite understand it if the building's closed, but just for certain people.
Mr. Bell?
Thank you. It's not so much the money, that the factor is just the availability to others, to the building to have access to, for utilization. That's all.
Mayor, how often is the building, other than their use, how often has it been utilized? I mean, I don't recall seeing a lot of activity.
Well, not this past year since March.
Well, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
But even previously.
Previously,
Never up to them.
there was,
No, that's right.
there was a little bit of activity. Exactly how much, I can't answer that right this second. But it was not very much. It was not very much, but we haven't rented it before until we started, 6 months maybe prior to March.
Yes.
And so I honestly couldn't answer that question, because we never rented it, it was utilized. My only concern with, I apologize, I didn't raise my hand, Mr. Williams, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. My only concern is that the amount of usage that it's going to be, and if you look at the budget, and again, we can afford $200, we can also afford for the utilities. So I'm just concerned about the utilities that were budgeted and the amount that it's gonna be used. So, and not, but anyway, we'll worry about that later, and I'll discuss that with Mr. Bishop.
But right now, it's the first come, first served to get with you and your secretary.
Yes, sir, we set the dates. Yes, sir, that is exactly right, Mr. Williams.
Would y'all rather us come like, let's say every
No,
4
Mel, I'm sorry.
months or something like that?
I didn't hear the name.
Every quarter?
No, you're fine, doing what you're doing.
That, you know, I think it would be up to the administration as to how often, how far in advance you, rent from.
Unless you just wanna come for, publicity purposes to, maybe once a quarter or something.
Yes, sir. Mr. Weaver, just to answer your question a while ago, I'm sorry, I didn't hear Ms. Jones, but it's Ms. Valerie. Ms. Valerie takes care of all the rentals for that, and she pre-calendars everything.
Any other questions coming for the public building?
We have to vote on, we have to vote on this.
We don't really have a book tonight, yeah? We get the number.
Every other week, starting.
I mean, you ain't got no date laid out right now.
But would y'all like a copy of all the dates? for the Wednesday meeting coming up, because everybody has to vote on it again.
So I recommend that it go to the full council next week.
Second. No. No, it was not. It was just a discussion for him to go. So it has to be voted at full council. Okay?
We'll see you.
We'll address it again there.
Oh, you wanna address it next week, next Wednesday, you wanna address it?
We still, you gotta vote on it to send it to.
Y'all sent the action right now?
Yeah, it has to go before, it has to be unanimous. Yeah, second. No. All we have to do is vote on it.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes, done, nays, you got the same right? No nays, motion carried, we move to agenda item next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you for waiting so long.
There'll be no more court business coming before public buildings with recess.
Okay. Next, thank you, Mr. Brewer. Next, insurance and personnel, Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Mayor. Insurance and Personnel Committee will convene. We have a quorum. Have no action items or non-action items. I did have an action item, but the mayor took it off my committee, and if anyone wants to ask me about it, you can call me later.
Recess?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, community and economic development, Mr. Reggie.
Thanks, Mayor. Let's see, we do have a quorum under reports. At request of Alderman Stringfellow, the mayor will provide a report regarding his efforts for grants and his work on the LCDA board.
Okay, the LCDA board does not issue grants. It issues bond issue, it's a bond issuing firm, and it is a government firm. So that's what we do. We did have a meeting, and in January, there was nothing on the agenda, and they're scheduling another meeting on February. As far as other grants, if you look in the back of your engineer's packet, it'll give you a list of all of the capital outlay grants that we are applying for. And actually, if you look at that calendar, that was one of the things that we did get. So, and if you look at the recreation department, which is being renovated, that is another one that we got. Hope that answers your question.
While we're on grants, I attended a police jury meeting last month, I guess, and they was talking about a grant that they got for the cameras. And I think they were supposed to have a meeting with you there. You want to tell us about that?
Oh, yes, sir. And I appreciate you and Ms. Stringfellow attending. I heard that, but I'm not gonna go there. But anyway,
What?
Anyway, but that's okay. Yes, sir, I did have a meeting with the police jury and with Mr. Walter, and there was a discussion, and I did have a meeting. We did it virtual, and we're looking at some cameras possibly in the city.
Right.
Absolutely. And there was a grant that was applied for by the Katy Parish Police Jury. Again, it's a grant that they don't even know if they're gonna get. They're hoping and have assumptions, from what I understood the day before yesterday, that they don't know if they're gonna get it or not just yet, but they're hoping they will. and they have an assumption on an amount, but they really don't know if that's gonna be the amount. So, yes, we did have a meeting, and it was a very good one.
Okay. Number 2, at request of Alderman Stringfellow, the mayor will provide a report on the City of Crowley website.
City of Crowley website is being, I guess you would say, reconstructed. It's gonna be done by, it is currently being done by Mr. Gibson, and he's still working on it. And once he gets done, he's gonna show it to us and see what we got, to where it can make it a lot friendlier, more easy to navigate, and very pretty, colorful, and with some other things to add to it. So I just haven't gotten that back yet.
Yes, sir. Right.
Mayor, we have the quality of life development program on the city's website. I saw it posted. And when is this gonna be implemented? A lot of people are calling me, it's a great program, how is it being implemented? And can you give us an update on?
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Dupree and I have a meeting again on Friday, and we're getting ready to implement a few things from it.
You said a few things from it? Okay. And what about the administrative court?
That's one of them.
Okay, and you will choose whoever will preside over that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And do you have someone in mind?
I'd rather not discuss that at this moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Number 3, at request of Alderman Stringfellow, an update on the Clean City contest will be provided by either myself or Alderman Stringfellow. So I have an email saying that the deadline this year was April 1st. District judging will be held the first week of May. The state judging will last for 2 weeks of May. So what I did is I called got in touch with Garden Club, because we paid for 2020, didn't have a 2020 Clean City, they just roll it over. So we're automatically in there.
That is
So because we're automatically in there, Kim and I just need to get together, figure out a route, get with you, let you know what the route will be, so that we can get some of the, civic groups maybe together and maybe pick a Clean City Day like we did last 2 years ago.
sounds like a great plan.
Once I get a little bit more information on this, there's a few things in here, but it's just regular stuff. But I'll get with you as soon as I get some more, once me and Kim can get together.
Yeah, if y'all get a chance, get with me. I spoke to Ms. Jean Juster,
Okay,
and
absolutely.
have some other information.
Okay. And then the only other thing is I've been working with Ms. Val with the car show. The car show will be April 10th, downtown Crowley from 9 in the morning to 3 p.m. And we had a meeting last week. I think it was the second meeting, and there'll be another meeting next week. And if anybody wants to meet the meeting, get with Val with the date and the exact time, and she'll put you on the email list. And I think that was it for reports. Under action items, I had none. And is there any legal items that come before community and economic? Yes, ma'am.
One other thing, Mayor, what did you mean by that comment about myself and Alderman Crater going to the police jury meeting?
You guys attended the meeting, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We just didn't know, like, you asked me to look into cameras. Yeah.
And we're brought to the slant towards
Yes.
her,
Yeah, towards me. I mean, it kind of came across as like,
Okay, I apologize if I said anything toward you, but just.
Yeah.
yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
Well,
Yeah,
there's many
and we've been
times-
putting in a lot
I'm
of
not gonna
hours.
get into that, but
We've been
there's many
putting in a lot of
times where you
hours.
make,
you're the one who started to get into it. Keep the cracks professional.
it is professional, Doctor.
No, that was not professional.
Thank you. Thank you.
It wasn't.
You're very welcome.
Anything else come before Community and Economic Development Committee? I will recess.
Thank you, Mr. Reggie. Next, Revenue and Finance, Mr. Cordell.
Revenue Finance will convene, there is a quorum, there are no action items, there's nothing else to come before the committee. Revenue Finance Committee recess.